Hello, hello, hello. I don't know if you were just hearing me, I don't know, before the commercial break, but you're hearing me again. This is the Daily Blender. I'm Keon Rose, filling in for Randy White, filling in for Jeffrey O'Brien. We are many, many layers deep. This is Radioception. And there's a lot of football to talk about. I don't know if you noticed, but there was a Monday Night Football game last night involving the Bills and the Jets. And then this morning, there were some trades this morning also involving the Bills and the Jets, not trading with each other. The Bills trade with the Browns and acquire Amari Cooper, give up a third round pick, and then a similar trade. Jets, Raiders. The Jets get Davante Adams, their guy. The two have been put together for a long time, ever since Davante Adams basically requested a trade. A lot of people have been wondering where he would wind up, and New York seemed like the spot that made the most sense. Aaron Rodgers is the guy there. Davante Adams is his guy. So those two things seem like they were bound to happen eventually. So I'm really, really excited to talk about that. And we'll jump into that in a second. But let's just kind of run down what else we're getting to today. Because we've got a big prime time flexed game coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll talk about that as well. And we'll get to maybe some trades that need to happen here in the NFL. By the way, Tom Brady is officially a minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, which means that we can now finally stop talking about Tom Brady coming back to play football every time somebody gets injured or kind of sucks. Tom Brady's not coming back to play football, but now, per the rules of the NFL, he can't. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. We'll kind of go through the CBS Sports Power Rankings too. I'm very fascinated by all of this. But let's start with the trades from last night, because I don't think we need to get too deep into the weeds on the games. It's 3 p.m. I'm sure you watched the game yesterday. I'm sure you've heard all of the reacting that's going to be happening around those games. By the way, my bad. Where's my manners? Where is my manners? I think I was raised better than this. On the text line, that's where you come in. 888-368-1580. That was very rude of me not to let you know that you could text into this fine radio show and become a part of the action as well. So now that I've gotten all of the housekeeping out of the way, let's go ahead and get to these trades. Because first of all, I'll start with the one that's the least outrageous of the two trades. Amari Cooper to the Bills is not at all outrageous as a trade. The Bills would get Amari Cooper and a 2025 sixth round pick, whereas the Browns are going to get a 2025 third round pick and a 2026 seventh round pick. So, those two late round picks, how much those impact and what that actually does, we'll leave it up to those teams to decide. But the third round pick for Cleveland is honestly a really, really good deal. For a receiver like Amari Cooper, who is, 30 years old now, been in the league for 10 years, really? Amari Cooper, 30 years old. You get a third round pick back for a wide receiver who is at that age, in his prime, but probably starting to head to the back nine of the prime, if we're going to be honest about it, especially Cooper, because his production has just been going down kind of year after year. And, he hasn't had a really good season catching the football. I've watched Amari Cooper with some very, very disappointing dropping passes that I know that he is more than capable of hauling in and catching. We just haven't seen it this year. And I don't know if that's necessarily a function of Amari Cooper has fallen all the way off, or if that's more of a function of Amari Cooper is just on an offense that doesn't work. His quarterback stinks. The offensive line stinks. Stefanski and the play calling stink. The other receivers stink. It's a bad team. The Cleveland Browns are a bad team. And sometimes you put a wide receiver on a team like that, and we don't necessarily see the best of what that dude has to offer, because there was a point where, you could argue Amari Cooper was a top 25 receiver in the NFL. You can't argue it now. It's impossible. But there was a time, and it wasn't that long ago. It was like a few years ago, that you could have made that argument for an Amari Cooper. Now, you really can't, and I wonder if the change of scenery to the Bills is going to help him out a bit, if the playmaking of Josh Allen is going to help him out a bit, the fact that the Bills are they're in a better place. They're at the top of their division. They're not struggling. They're not looking around seeing, well, is the coach going to get fired? Because Stefanski could get fired. Or what are we going to do with this quarterback who we're paying way too much money, but we really can't get out of the contract because it's all guaranteed. There's so many question marks around the Browns that make it so that football might not necessarily be the easiest thing to focus on in that building. Maybe a change of scenery to Buffalo helps. Also, just a wide receiving core in Buffalo that could use the backup. Not that Khalil Shakir hasn't been good, but obviously with his injuries, we see what this team looks like when they don't have Shakir healthy, and they don't have a whole lot of options even behind Shakir. So either Shakir is kind of got his replacement there in Amari Cooper, and your offense can work a little bit, or you can put those two guys together. They don't really do the same thing on a football field, and you can figure out how to win football games now if you're the Bills without maybe stressing every single week. How the hell are we going to move the ball through the air, which is primarily what it is that the Bills would like to do. I think the Bills did a very good job in this trade. And honestly, I think the Browns did too, considering what it is that they were actually capable of getting for Amari Cooper. It was never going to be a whole lot. And I think that the fact that they were able to go out and get even the third rounder back, that's huge. That's huge. So let's go to the other trade. Let's grade the other trade a little bit and take a look at Davante Adams and the New York Jets. This one feels a whole lot more outrageous, where the Bills were actually answering a question that their team had. They were solving a problem that team had going on. The Jets have not solved their problems. The Jets did not trade, as far as I'm aware, for a lineman. I don't believe that Davante Adams plays any of the guard positions or a tackle spot. And that's what the Jets actually need. They need offensive line help, if anything. Instead, they go out, they get Davante Adams, which it will make them better. I'm not going to lie to you and sit here and pretend like the Jets aren't going to improve by adding an all-pro wide receiver whom their quarterback likes a lot, trusts immensely. And trust is a big part of this because the way Aaron Rodgers plays the game, he requires that his receivers know exactly what it is that he's thinking, more or less. And the guys that get it, they have a good time. Garrett Wilson, having a good time. Allen Lazard, having a good time. Mike Williams, not so much. Mike Williams is not having a good time out there. Aaron Rodgers threw him under the bus last night and then backed the bus up, since Mike Williams apparently ran a wrong route, led to an interception by Rodgers. That was a whole big deal unto itself. So you know what Aaron Rodgers wants from you. You're going to be fine in that offense. Davante Adams knows this already. So in that regard, does that make the Jets a better football team? Yeah, it does. But does it make the Jets a juggernaut all of a sudden? Does it make them an unstoppable team? Well, no. The offensive line is still aggressively bad. The running game is suffering as a result of that. I don't necessarily know that this fixes all of the problems that they have. And of course, that the locker room is foul. It's absolutely foul. You fire the coach in the middle of the season. It's not 100% clear why Woody Johnson did fire him. Woody Johnson did not offer a whole lot of explanation as to why he fired Robert Saleh. He just did. And then the Jets last night lose a game where, a couple of made field goals and maybe we're having a different conversation entirely. But this feels like a desperation trade. And I genuinely am against desperation moves in the NFL. I am. If you're in the National Football League and you are running the team, I don't like desperation moves. For the same reason that I don't like to buy food when I go to a theme park. I don't like to buy food when I go to the movies because I don't have any leverage. They know what I want. They know I want the food. They know I can't go anywhere else to get the food. So the next thing you know, I'm paying $25 for one churro. That's how this goes. And that's what the Jets have done here. They're making a desperation move. Now, on one hand, it doesn't feel like they had to give up an awful lot to get Davante Adams. So on that front, not bad, but the third round pick is conditional. And this is the issue with the Jets right here. The third round pick is conditional, which means that depending on the performance of Davante Adams, this pick can actually become a second round pick. If Adams is named an all-pro or is on the active roster for an AFC championship game or a Super Bowl, which are pretty lofty goals, that third round pick that the Raiders got turns into a second round pick. Now, if you're the Jets and you get to a Super Bowl, it doesn't really matter. You get to the AFC title game, that doesn't really matter. But Davante Adams playing with Aaron Rodgers doesn't need to do those other two things. He just needs to be an all-pro. And I think that Davante Adams would still qualify as an all-pro. I think that there's still enough season left for him to put up the kinds of numbers where they're going to have to give a second round pick to the Raiders. They traded a second rounder for a 30-year-old receiver who's great, but he's a receiver in his 30s. That is not good. This is the way that this organization is being run right now. 31-year-old Davante Adams is being traded in his 11th season for what could wind up being, and what I think will probably ultimately wind up being, a second round pick to a team that I don't think is going to an AFC title game. I don't think that team is going to a Super Bowl, and I don't think that Davante Adams fixes all of those problems. Oaktown Destroyer on the text line saying, "Good afternoon, Keon. Davante Adams is nothing but a diva going to be with his boyfriend." And look, there's a bromance going on there. I get it. I get it. That's your guy. But good Lord, man. You're not going to ever convince me. Aaron Rodgers, especially, of all people, cannot convince me that he has zero influence in that building and zero influence over that front office, aside from the fact that the history of great quarterbacks going to other teams is the history of these guys showing up and flexing the tremendous amounts of power and influence that they have in the NFL for their new teams. Forget that. Put that to the side for just a second. The front office seems to be doing all the things that Aaron Rodgers wanted. I mean, I don't know to what level of involvement he had with Robert Saleh and that whole firing. I speculated probably fairly recklessly about it when it happened. But honestly, what Aaron Rodgers wanted, he didn't like Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh's gone. He wants Davante Adams. They get Davante Adams. Like, this is still a team that I don't fully trust. And I don't think that's a very wise move. The fifth letter is going to be the Raiders pessimist here and say the Raiders will still screw up their second round pick if that's the case. We suck again. Fifth letter, hold on. I don't know that that's true. I don't know that that's true. I thought the Raiders were very smart in the draft this past year. I think that they maybe hired the wrong coach, but I don't necessarily know that they're going to screw up that second round pick. We'll see. Maybe it is the same old Raiders, but I believe that teams can change. I think you could understand why I'm optimistic on that. The Jet says, I disagree. The Jets looked very good last night in only missing one piece of the puzzle. If Aaron Rodgers is comfortable throwing to a 30-year-old, they win that game along with many more. This is the last chance for the Jets to try and make the Super Bowl. I think this gives them their best chance. And the Jet, I absolutely do agree that this gives them their best chance. I just don't know that best chance is actually going to get them to a Super Bowl. Personally, I don't think that Davante Adams is nothing. Got to restate that as many times as humanly possible. I am not here to tell you that Davante Adams will do nothing for this team and they won't get any better, but they didn't solve a problem that they had. They just genuinely didn't. And they scored on a defense that is inconsistent. They didn't look bad last night, but I want to see the Jets play an actual real defense and look pretty good. And I have yet to actually see that. Really. Big George says, hello, Keon. Happy Tuesday. Another solo show today, I see. Not a solo show, actually. Dylan, my co-host from Beat the Book, just put the headphones on just now. So we're gonna have a little back and forth throughout the show. But I want to get the trade stuff, the football stuff out of the way early, because where I really need Dylan's brain is for some basketball stuff a little bit later that I'd like to get to further down the line. But anyway, back to Big George's text where he says, we should just call this hour 2 of Beat the Book. We should not call it that. That's you're going to make a lot of people very mad in this building if you do that. Well. The Mets even the NLCS. The Yankees won. The Bills won. A pretty good day for the state of New York. Subway Series, anybody? Big George, I don't want to hear it. I'll just be. Can I be honest with you? Can I level with you, Big George? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear about a Subway Series. That sounds, look, it'll be fun, but it also sounds insufferable. And I just don't need to hear the New York media talking about how great they are for just however long that series goes. I can't do a week and a half of all of us having to bow and kneel before the New York media and tell them how good their teams are. I just don't want to hear it. I just genuinely do not. Oaktown Destroyer says, I said this a couple of years ago before they hired Josh and Fan, what to say they should have went out and got Louis Riddick from ESPN and Eric Bieniemy as coach. I think we have a different team right now. Now I think the Bieniemy thing kind of went up in smoke a little bit from that stint he had in Washington, where he had a young quarterback and appeared to actively try to get him killed. So I think that a lot of teams backed off on that a little bit, but I do like the Riddick idea because I just think that if you have a strong front office, you can survive things like not having a great personnel grouping on the field or not having a great coach, because your front office is going to be able to fix those things. Whereas if you have a bad front office or a weak front office, they're just going to struggle in that way a lot. I agree with you on that, but I think that the Raiders may be headed in a potentially good direction. I just think that Antonio Pierce is probably not the correct choice at head coach. And the faster they can get out of that, and I don't know what the timeline is there, what the timetable is there, or how much guaranteed money they're willing to pay a guy to not coach football for them. I think the faster they get out of that, the better, because it just doesn't seem like he's professional enough to be a head coach, if I'm just 100% honest. I just think that Antonio Pierce he's too close to the players. He acts like one of the players, and I don't want my head coach to act like one of the players. I want my coach to act like the coach. Say what you want about Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell is a player's coach. Players love to play for him. When he goes to the practices, he'll get out there and do the drills with guys. But there is no question who the coach is when Dan Campbell starts talking. None whatsoever. Hamilton Porter says, missed you guys yesterday, but hey, shout out to Lincoln Riley for the worst 2-minute drill in the history of football this weekend. Shout out to Lincoln Riley. He's having.
I needed that Penn State win, so I was very, very happy about that.
I bet Penn State too. I was sweating that one out. Oh, and Lincoln Riley came through for me, my guy. So thanks for the text, Hamilton Porter. And we'll get to some more NFL stories on the other side. We've got some NBA coming down a little bit further in the show. And this is the Daily Blender, not Beat the Book. I don't want to hear that. This is the Daily Blender, just with a different label on the package, just slapped right on there. Here on 1580, The Fanatic.
This is Brent Musburger's Action Update on 1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic. Get insights into the sports betting market with VSiN's betting splits. See where the money is and keep updated on how the market is reacting. Only at VSIN.com. Now, here are the latest lines from my guys in the desert.
Major League Baseball postseason continuing tonight. The Yankees home in the Bronx as they take on Cleveland. New York winning game one of the series 5-3, and they will start Garrett Cole while the Indians go with Tanner Beebe. The Yankees minus a run and a half plus 130 on the run line. Cleveland getting the run and a half minus 155. On the money line, the Guardians plus 145, while the Yankees are minus 175, and the over-under run total at 6.5, with the over minus 145 and the under plus 120. I'm Tony Desiri with your VSiN Action Update on 1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Hey, football fans, Michael Vick here. They say I transformed the quarterback position. The fastest ever, the strongest arm, the most rushing yards. They call me a game changer. I say BetUS.com changed the sports betting game. It started 30 years ago with the industry's biggest bonuses, and they haven't stopped. This football season, get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Join me at BetUS Online Sportsbook and Casino, BetUS, where the game begins.
Hi, guys. Jeffrey O'Brien here. Have you ever gone to HarmonSolar.com? Well, you really need to, because everything you ever wanted to know about how solar power can save you big on your monthly electric bill is right there. It's online. Through your phone or through your computer, you can learn about tax credits, the equipment they use, look at how they do things for businesses as well as homeowners, see testimonials from happy customers, and I hear they got a pretty good podcast too. Check it out. Go to HarmonSolar.com. That's HarmonSolar.com.
Madame Giselle senses something big coming. Is it a career change? Everything looks wet. I'm going to be a swim teacher. There's a roof. A swim teacher who also does roofing. No, the roof of your RV has a leak and it's ruining the furniture. Oh, that's okay. I'm covered by Progressive. But maybe I'm a swim teaching roofer who makes furniture.
Customize your coverage with Progressive's Roof Protection Plus and be prepared for the unexpected. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Roof Protection Plus available for RVs less than 6 years old. $250 deductible applies to any claim.
Did you know that Wendy's has any size soft drinks for just $1? Yeah, any size, anytime. Like $1 Coke, $1 Sprite, or even $1 strawberry Fanta. Okay, could we maybe switch up the sound effect, please? I'm losing it. Wow, no, not that. Any size soft drink for just $1? Gotta be Wendy's.
Limited time only. Price and participation may vary. A la carte only. Not valid in a combo. Exclusions apply.
Now open in Scottsdale. It's United Forte Custom Door Showroom with 40,000 Euro doors and hundreds of state-of-the-art designs and finishes on display. Plus kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, and more. All at wholesale prices. Builders, contractors, designers, and yes, you. Come see our showroom on Greenway Hayden Loop. That's United Forte. Forte. Stop by to see and feel the quality. United Forte Custom Doors. Find us at uporte.com. That's uporte.com.
What's up, everybody? Nick Costos here, host of You Better You Bet, reminding you to check out the show. Now, why should you check out You Better You Bet? Because we bring you the most fun. We bring you the most insightful, the most entertaining show in the wagertainment world. From up-to-the-minute breakdowns of backdoor covers, bad beats, and the cheers and tears that come alongside them. Plus, you'll get the best betting analysis anywhere from myself, Ken Barkley, and some of the best minds in the sports wagering world. So tune in weekdays, noon to 3 on Arizona Sports Betting Station, 1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Hamilton Porter on the text line says, don't know if you guys saw the story today, but Ohio State is now accusing Oregon of cheating at the end of the game to win. Oh, we'll get there. Hamilton Porter, buckle up. We'll get there. We will get there. But I wanted to get to a little NFL first before we moved on. The Moist One says the 2 missed pass interferences against Penn State in overtime left a sour taste, though. A little bit, but my bet cashed out. Moist
That's
One.
all that
I hope you understand. I hope you understand that for me, the amount of money I bet on that game is a lot for me. It's not a lot, but it was a lot for me. And I'm glad it worked out. The bad officiating worked in my favor this time, so I'll go ahead and take it. CK says, so did Niner-Napolis hit the big parlay? Well, you'll have to ask that Niner-Napolis. Niner-Napolis, paging Dr. Niner-Napolis. Golden Domer says, really enjoying the Daily Blender. When does the Daily Blender start today? I don't know. I already told you. I'm going to change the words of your text, just so you know. And then there's Pierre on the text line. And Pierre, damn it. All right, let me go Google Translate, see if I can just this every time. Let's go French to English translation. There we go. You know, the text line, and then we're going to copy everything that Pierre said and then paste it here in the French part of this. There you go. Right there. And he says, hello, Mr. Keon and Mr. Dillon. I'm sad today. My Montreal Canadiens got their butts, I'm going to say kicked, because that can't possibly be what you meant. 6-3 yesterday against the pesky Pittsburgh Penguins. I need to be picked up. Can you pour me a pint of Labatt's Blue? I don't know if I can pour you a pint, but I can get you a glass right here. There you go. There's your Labatt Blue. Sorry about your Canadians, I guess. So let's get back to the NFL talk that we were getting to a little bit before, because we were talking a little bit about the Davante Adams trade with the Jets, the Amari Cooper trade with the Bills. And I personally just don't think that the Davante Adams trade makes the Jets significantly better. It does make them better, but does it make them significantly better? This team, before last game, would you have said that that's a Super Bowl contender? which I always give it the coma test, which is if I was in a coma and I woke up the day of the Super Bowl and all of my friends were around my bed. And of course it's me. If I find out it's the Super Bowl is the day I woke up, I'm going to ask them, who's in the Super Bowl? And if they said the Jets, I'd go back into a coma. I'd actually be shocked. So that's where I stand on the Jets. Do I think that Davante Adams makes them a team I would genuinely be shocked to see in a Super Bowl? Does he take them from that to a Super Bowl team? I don't think so. I don't know how you could think so, to be honest.
And is he worth a third round draft pick or potentially a second round pick?
A second, yeah. Because if he plays well, like here's the thing: if the three conditions for him to have that pick turn into a second would be goes to a Super Bowl, goes to an AFC title game, or is an All-Pro. The first two, if you get the first two, it doesn't matter that it's a second round pick. At that point, you're happy it's a second round pick because that means you're competing for the thing that you paid Aaron Rodgers all that money to do. You put this team together. You got all this stuff going. You even fired Robert Saleh in the middle of the season, and for some reason, it worked out for the first time. Would be in the history of any team firing a coach before week 6. It has never worked out any other time. So that means that every dumb thing you did was actually not that dumb, and you're fine. But if Davante Adams just has a really great statistical season for just Davante, and he's an All-Pro, but they don't come close to the other two, then yeah, you absolutely screwed up. You lost that trade because he's 31 years old and a second rounder. You could have drafted yourself another Davante Adams who would be on a rookie deal at that point.
Well, and how many more years do the Jets expect to get out of Aaron Rodgers? Because I mean, his time it's running out. I mean, let's be honest. We don't see many quarterbacks not named Tom Brady play at, the age that he's playing at right now. We saw last season. I mean, he's one significant hit away from being a very terrible investment for this franchise. So now let's play devil's advocate. Like, does Tyrod Taylor and Davante Adams make some dynamic connection that can keep the ship afloat?
Absolutely not. And I think we both. I understand you were trying to be fair and speculate fairly. I think we all know the truth here. The answer to that question is no, not even remotely, not even a little bit. No.
So now you've squandered draft capital all in some Hail Mary move, to try and get the Jets to be the team that comes out of the AFC. Can this team beat the Chiefs? Because I would imagine if they're going to go all the way and now they're in that AFC championship game.
This team can't beat the Chiefs. They can't. I'm sorry. It's just there's a gigantic gap between the Chiefs and then everybody else. And then there's a big gap. And then there's the Jets. The Jets aren't beating the Chiefs in any world that exists. And we all know this. It's just the way that this team is constructed. They're one thing away from the whole team coming apart. And they were already struggling to tread water before this. You add Davante Adams, but I'm sorry, you get an injury to Breece Hall, you're done. I forget the name of the left tackle off the top of my head for the Jets. You lose him, I think you're done. They're done in a number of scenarios that don't require them even facing the Chiefs, much less expecting them to be good enough to go through the AFC, go through the gauntlet of the playoffs. They may not even win the division to get in, so they're not going to, get any favorable matchup probably. This is a team that really, really is on shaky ground to begin with, which is why a trade this risky is tough. Now, your quarterback is 41, so do what you got to do, I guess. That would be my fair thing to add to this. Tihua says, man, Jeffrey and Randy are gone. Well, yeah, Randy's had some stuff to handle today, and he's already explained what's going on with him. So you're going to have to go back and find the podcast and listen to that, because I don't think that he wants me to rehash it each and every single day, but he's going through some stuff. And Jeffrey is on vacation. It's a very, very long vacation because, as Jim Rome used to say, if they give you all that time to have off, you take all the time off. I mean, I don't know if it's a paid vacation. It's a paid vacation. Hamilton Porter says, you want to talk NFL? How about the Lions have zero respect for the Cowgirls and lining up their lineman at wide receiver in the fourth quarter and throwing them laterals? I think it was pretty clear that the Lions do not respect the Dallas Cowboys and that it was a point to embarrass them on national television. And they did that.
Did you see there was, I want to say he was a lineman on the Cowboys. Someone like direct messaged Amon-Ra St. Brown on Instagram.
Uh-oh.
So, well, and I
That's
think
not great.
Amon-Ra St. Brown had posted some video of them in the locker room and they're all having a good time. And this guy like replied to it with like some negative frowny face emoji or something like that. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown called him called him an interesting swear word.
Well, all right.
So there's chatter going on between those two.
Yeah,
those locker rooms don't like each other.
And of course, like the Lions have been on the wrong end of a lot of Cowboys games. They were feeling it that day, and the disrespect. It's not accidental. They wanted specifically to beat Dallas for what Dallas stands for. You're the perennial underdog. You're the whipping boy. You get kicked around. Meanwhile, the Cowboys could just be like 9-7 forever and America's team. It can't be great to be the Lions and just be like, well, we're not that much worse. Our franchises have done roughly the same amount in the last 20 years. We're the ones that everybody laughs at. They get to be great and they haven't done anything. Yeah, of course we're going to go in your house and embarrass you on your owner's 82nd birthday. I think that the disrespect is very intentional, and I didn't have a problem with it.
Well, and I mean, look, the Lions are taking a well-deserved victory lap, for once in a very, very long time. The Lions are not the Lions of old. And then the Cowboys are essentially the Lions of the NFL postseason. I mean, that's generally been the trajectory that they've gone on.
They just find ways to lose some of these games, sometimes in just horrific fashion where you've got play calls or penalties that aren't called, or penalties called that shouldn't have been called. Dallas has had a couple of those, but they've also had the hilarious Tony Romo can't seem to hold the snap down, and then he's got to run and he's tackled on a field goal that would have won the game as time expires in Seattle. Like there's a whole history of the Cowboys in the playoffs where none of it works the way that it's supposed to. But yeah, I mean, the Lions were being disrespectful, and it wasn't an accident. The Moist One says, I saw Jordan Lewis say you a bitch to St. Brown.
Yeah. I was being nice about it.
Oh man, it's just like, yeah, no, I mean, you could say that, but they put 49 on your scoreboard. They went into your house and put 49 on your head, man. I don't think you should have anything to say at this particular point. So let's get to that, because of course there were some interesting comments today from Jerry Jones, who was not happy, as you wouldn't be if your team that you own basically got boat raced for the second time this season. That's like the second 40-plus point game that the Cowboys have given up in Dallas at home. The Saints got them earlier in the year. That is 167 combined points that the Cowboys have allowed in Dallas this season. And we just finished week 6. It's going to be a long year for the Cowboys if they can't figure out some of whatever the issues they have going on. And when Jerry Jones was asked about making changes, he lost his mind. Just completely lost his mind. He was yelling at the reporters. The radio guys. He threatened a couple of jobs along the way. He said something along the lines of, yeah, I can get somebody else to do this if you guys aren't going to do this right. As though, like, what other thing are they supposed to ask you? The team got punched in the face repeatedly over the course of 60 minutes the day before. Were they supposed to go, hey, Jerry, how's the weather?
Well, and I mean, he didn't say this verbatim. This is me kind of paraphrasing here, but basically the extent of it is, how dare you point out anything that I've ever done wrong? You guys on the radio here are here to talk about all the right things that I do, not the wrong things. And if you want to just focus on the bad, I'm going to find people that will replace you and will be my personal radio yes men that will only focus on the good.
They were the opposite of Pat McAfee and AJ Hawk, who every time Aaron Rodgers shows up on the McAfee show and he talks, it doesn't really matter what Rodgers says. He's right. He's right all the time.
They literally put on the bottom, every time he appears on Pat McAfee show, it says on the bottom, it's like Super Bowl champion, MVP winner, ayahuasca enthusiast. It's literally like the three.
Yeah.
They're very, very like keen on making sure that A-Rod loves his concoction.
And I think that is the best for them, that's the best ratings that they get over the course of their show is whenever Aaron Rodgers is on. So that's the golden goose. You just can't disrespect the golden goose. The thing with these radio guys though is they do have listeners in the same way that when we are here with the Fourth Dimension, if we were able to have Kyler Murray on the show, obviously we're not telling him the short jokes, you guys. You just got to keep that canned. All right. That's just not happening. But if we were to have him on the show, you'd have to ask him about some of those performances where it's dude, what are you even looking at? There's just times where it just seems like you are out of control out there and the game is getting away from you. What is happening? And if Kyler were to get mad about that, that'd be one thing, but it would be better and we'd have more respect from the Fourth Dimension if we actually ask that question rather than pretend that Kyler never does anything wrong and he never makes any mistakes and he's never played poorly a day in his life. And that's what these guys are kind of stuck trying to figure out how to do, because that's obviously a popular segment. You don't want to piss off Jerry too much, but on the other hand, you have to ask him some question. You lost by nearly 40.
What's kind of odd with Jerry Jones too is this should be something that he's been an NFL owner for a very long time. This is the kind of thing that you should have thicker skin about, and it shouldn't get to you so personally, that you're turning around and you're threatening, these guys on the radio and you're, putting it out there that you'll replace them. But, you'll have some illegitimate child, start to cause waves in the media and you'll have some real thick skin for that and just be, completely cold and, out of sight, out of mind, focusing on my team. How dare you point out the fact that they just lost so bad to the Lions? You never talk about anything good that we do. And it's Jerry,
there's not a whole lot of good this season.
There isn't. and then you look back the last 5 years, the last 10 years, where are the rings? Where is the success?
Where are the Super Bowl appearances? Because I'm one of those people, if my team went to a Super Bowl and they didn't win it, I'd be sad, obviously, but I'll take the appearance. Trust me, nothing hurts more than never going. I'll take that. Jerry doesn't even have that to offer the people of Dallas. Your team is second from the bottom of a division that everybody thought you were going to run this year. How do you get mad about people asking you questions about that? I'll never understand Jerry Jones for the life of me.
When the Arizona Cardinals have made it further than you multiple times in the last 15 years,
that ought to say something.
That screams something. Absolutely screams something.
And Jerry's never going to get it. Jerry went on the radio show, a thing that he knew was coming. Questions he must have known were coming. I find it hard to believe that those guys have this segment with Jerry Jones every week and they ambushed him. And I've heard their segments before. Sometimes the criticisms they have of Jerry, they really couch it. They really try to find a way to say, well, some people are really saying this. Others are asking this. So no one actually just shows up and outright accuses Jerry of anything. He's getting as softball a version of this as he can possibly get, and he still can't handle the heat. So there you have it. I don't know what to say to you, Cowboys fans out there, Hook 'em Hottie, heavy metal maniacs. I'm sorry that your team is the way that it is right now. For you guys, not for your team. I think it's funny. But the Moist One says the Malcolm Butler interception will haunt me forever. Sometimes the way you lose matters too, Moist One. The way you lose absolutely matters in all of that. All right, we've got some more NFL stuff, and then we'll start to get around to the NBA in hour number 2 coming up here on the Daily Blender on 1580 The Fanatic.
Sports betting apps are not created equal. Dylan Cohen from Beat the Book here to talk about the Sport Trade advantage. With higher payouts, Sport Trade is the ultimate sports betting experience. Sporttrade is the first sports betting app that gives you the option to see the odds expressed as probabilities, and it's changing in-game betting forever. If it's easier to understand 52% probability of winning versus minus 108 odds, then Sporttrade is for you. With this percent odds feature, cashing out now makes much more sense. As the win probability changes, so does the value of your bet. And if you're an experienced bettor and prefer American odds, you'll get pricing closer to minus 106 versus the normal minus 110, coupled with instant in-play betting. No more spinny wheels. So download Sporttrade today to see the difference and beat the book. Use promo code 1580 to earn 10% cash back on every bet you place in your first week. Terms apply.
Sporttrade is regulated by the Arizona Department of Gaming. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP.
4 years. That's how long it took Democrats to ruin our economy and plunge our southern border into anarchy. Who helped them hurt us? Ruben Gallego. Washington could have cut taxes for Arizona families, but Ruben blocked the bill. And his fellow Democrats gave a bigger break to the millionaire class in California and New York. They played favorites and cost us billions. And Ruben wasn't done yet. Democrats could have secured the border. Instead, they invited an invasion and used our tax dollars to pay for it. Ruben Gallego even backed the law to let them vote in our elections. Don't give Gallego and the Democrats another 4 years to hurt us. Give your support to a real Arizona leader, Kari Lake. Kari and the Republicans will secure the border, support our families, and never turn their backs on us. Kari Lake for Senate.
I'm Kari Lake, candidate for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Kari Lake for Senate and the NRSC.
Mommy, want to play a game with me and Dad?
Mommy's not feeling good.
You need to vaporize that cold.
Vaporize?
Yeah, with Dayquil VapoCool. It's Dayquil plus a rush of Vicks vapors.
Whoa.
Come on, honey. Let's let mommy rest.
You guys are amazing. And so is Dayquil VapoCool.
Dayquil VapoCool, the vaporizing daytime coughing, aching, fever, power through your day medicine. And to vaporize sore throat pain, try Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
In most countries of the world, Forte means door. United Forte Custom Doors, located in the Scottsdale Airport Design District, is now open with over 40,000 European doors, all in stock, ready for delivery, and at wholesale prices. Designers, contractors, builders, and yes, you. Come see our showroom on Greenway Hayden Loop. That's United Forte, Porte. Stop by to see and feel the quality at United Forte Custom Doors. Find us at uporte.com. That's uporte.com.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
We are back. Daily Blender, hour number 1. Disappearing as we speak. And we've got a lot of NFL that we're diving into today. And we had a lot of trades. Well, a couple of trades, which is a lot for this far out from the NFL trade deadline, which is November 5th, by the way, for those of you who care. 1 p.m. our time is the deadline. And so that's pretty cool. The NFL league meetings happened, and Tom Brady, officially a minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, which means that we can finally stop doing the thing that happens every single year, which is a quarterback goes down, and then a bunch of idiots start asking about whether or not Tom Brady is going to walk away from the giant contract that he's being paid by Fox to come back and play football where people hit him hard. I think he's out the game, finally.
Yeah, you're talking about the 5% ownership.
The 5% ownership of the Vegas Raiders.
You know what? It's something we've all been waiting for. So just kind of glad that whole saga is over, because it basically seals Tom Brady's fate of not returning to the field anymore. So I mean, at least we can take that element out of any uncertain quarterback situation. Keon, do you see that ownership percentage staying so small? Because I just can't help but feel like Tom didn't get into this to be like a silent, minority owner. Like he seems to be someone that's going to want to eventually have a lot more control over, a franchise.
Yeah, or at least like be part of some kind of collective where his voice is loud. Like I don't know how much of the Washington Commanders Magic Johnson owns. I don't think it's a massive amount. but he's part of that ownership collective, and he's a pretty big voice, and people listen to him when he talks, and he's got the ear of Josh Harris, the owner. So I wonder if Tom Brady can have some similar version of that, where even if it is 5% or just around 5%, he just has so much influence in the building just because he's Tom Brady that it almost doesn't matter that he doesn't have a huge stake in the team. He can just be Tom Brady and more or less get the team to do what he'd like or move in the direction that he thinks is a solid direction. I mean, he's obviously not going to have the biggest voice because that is still going to be, Mr. Davis and his bad haircut. But, like the idea that Tom can find a way to gain influence in that ownership, I think that's very, very possible. So there's that news, and hopefully that stops many, many stupid decisions from being made. CK had a text earlier on the text line that said, "Free Budda Baker." So that movement appears to be starting up, and I thought it was really interesting because CBSSports.com had a number of trades that they believe should be made before the trade deadline, and one of them, at the very, very bottom of the article, Budda Baker to the Houston Texans, which is an interesting place for Budda to go. The potential compensation for the Cardinal to be a fourth rounder is what CBS Sports is proposing. Guys, this is what these players go for in the NFL. You're not getting a guy near. This is why when people are like, "Yeah, you got to trade Budda." Budda, what do you think you're going to get back? What do you really think NFL teams give back for players like that?
I mean, once upon a time, we did kind of fleece the Houston Texans in a trade.
You fleeced Bill O'Brien, who no longer works there. That's not the same team. Bill O'Brien, the coach, was unfortunately derailed by Bill O'Brien, the general manager, who was a dumbass and absolutely got hosed. But he was the one calling the shots. So, what do you want? He's going to take David Johnson and give up DeAndre Hopkins. You go ahead and do it. But these Texans are not. That's not happening again. Bill O'Brien got into a kind of a internal battle in that building with the guy who is the general manager of the team now, and he lost. They're not making that move. You're not getting. You probably are going to get like a fourth rounder for Budda Baker. I'm sorry to say, like, you're not getting an awful lot for a safety who is 28 years old, going on 29. I think it would be great, but this is a stockpile pick kind of trade. Most NFL trades are, even the ones that happened today with Davante Adams and Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper swapped for a third rounder. Davante Adams swapped for a third conditional second. Like that's what the going rate is in the NFL, because the timelines are so much smaller. So when you get a guy that's in his prime, he's probably used most of it already.
If Amari Cooper can get a third round pick, you'd think Budda Baker.
Budda might get a third.
I mean, look, if he's a free agent after this season and he's potentially going to walk, and the Cardinals are just in a scenario where they have a chance to leverage the fact that he is under contract still to get some draft capital, I don't really have a problem with them looking to try and stockpile for the future. I mean, it's unfortunate. I don't want to see Budda Baker go, but if the reality is, this is just going to be kind of another lost season for the Cardinals, and there really aren't any high hopes for the postseason, and we can just hold Budda and cross our fingers and hope he re-signs, or we know we can get a return for him now. It's just too difficult to pass up, potential third round pick. Hopefully it's a third rounder. I mean, if it's a fourth rounder, I'd probably still consider it, but
yeah, just so that fans know what they're getting. If you're like, all right, time to move on from Budda, you're not getting back a person of similar quality, because you're trading with somebody who wants to keep their players so they can make a playoff push. The Texans would be that team in this particular scenario. I like the trade for the Texans. I like it so much less for the Cardinals. I just think that there is something left with Budda. And look, if Budda doesn't want to do it here, if he's just like, look, I'm tired of losing, I'd like to win, then that's a different case entirely. But if Budda says, look, I'm willing to stick it out and see what you guys build, but you will have to pay me, well, then that's something where I'm like, I wouldn't move on from Budda Baker just because I don't know how much worse this defense is going to look without him. You are going to have to play the rest of the year with no Budda Baker. And if you think the defense looks bad now, if you think that secondary looks bad now, you don't realize how much work Budda Baker is doing to make that defense look passable. It's going to be a bleep show after you trade Budda Baker, and you're just going to have to breathe, take deep breaths, and just remember that you're doing this for the future of the franchise, not the present, because that's essentially the move you're making.
Is there potentially a quarterback coming out of college that, you know, the Cardinals might have their eye on, and perhaps there's potentially an effort to tank to ensure that they get him? I mean, I think that is still something that it has to be considered as well. And you know, you've mentioned this before on the show, Keon. The current front office that's there for the Cardinals, Kyler was not their man.
No, they didn't draft him. There's no emotional attachment there. You have Kyler. He's the quarterback that was here. He is a solid NFL quarterback. So you're just trying to see, what do you have in Kyler? What can you make work? And if there's something there you can build around, well, then you build around it. Don't even worry about trying to get a quarterback of the future. But right now, the Kyler Murray experiment for these Cardinals, as currently constructed, with Monty Ossenfort at general manager, Jonathan Gannon at head coach, Drew Petzing's the offensive coordinator, like these guys are not that attached to Kyler. They like him. He's fired up on Sundays. You know, I've seen Gannon and Kyler get along really well, but they don't owe him anything, you know, and so like if there's a way for them to get out of that contract, if there's a way for them to move on, then I imagine if this team is going to be up and down week to week, and that up and down is going to be correlated to how Kyler plays, they may want to move in a very, very different direction than the one that they're in now. And so to answer your question, like there are, you know, they're good. I don't know if there's a quarterback you want to like guarantee you tank for or anything, but Quinn Ewers is going to be out there. Shedeur Sanders is going to be out there. You know, Cam Ward
was who I was just
Cam Ward is a name that comes up all the time. He's a phenomenal athlete.
6'2".
Yeah, I mean, Cardinals fans
say no more.
Cardinals fans would get hung up on the height of the guy. But yeah, I just think that this is another draft, I think, where we're going to see multiple multiple quarterbacks rather come into the league and have the chance to maybe play and look good right away. You know, if there's an elevation in the way that Garrett Nussmeier is playing, there's a good chance that he could find himself, you know, in an NFL draft type conversation. So like there are going to be a number of options, and obviously as they go through the process, that's going to come up, but it's all going to depend on how Kyler finishes out the year. And if he continues to look this up and down, my guess is that at some point they move on from him. I don't know what the rush is or what their timeline is for building the roster first before adding a quarterback to it. That's all internal. Things tend to not leak out of that building these days the way they used to, because they run a tight ship in Cardinal Stadium these days. But I am actually interested in what their ideas on Kyler are and what their plan with Kyler would be moving forward. And I promise you, if I get any hint that they may be moving in a different direction, that's going to be the story. All right. So we've got a bunch of text on the text line now. Donnie says, breaking news, the Vikings have traded for Cam Akers, which I don't know is true, but does that make the Vikings much better if it is? I mean, it doesn't make them worse. It's not. I suppose it wouldn't be a bad move.
Oh yeah, it's true.
All right. Well, good for the Vikings. Walter Mellon says, do you guys feel Brady being part owner of the Raiders will draw some attention in the QB position? In what way, Walter Mellon? I'm really interested in what you mean by that, because
like is there a quarterback that's going to potentially like seek out the Raiders under some impression that they're going to be able to get groomed personally by Tom Brady?
I doubt it. I really doubt that.
I think, you know, the guys that want that relationship with him, like they probably still have a way to get connected to him.
Like the NFL is a brotherhood. They talk about it. You're like one or two people away from anybody's number.
Like I have to imagine, although I don't know kind of what the red tape around this is now that Tom's a part owner of another franchise, but you would think that Drake May has maybe spoken to Tom Brady like at least once in his life.
Maybe, hard to say, but Tom Brady obviously is going to still be a Patriots presence as well. I don't know. I think if you're the Raiders and you're drafting your own rookie, that might have some benefit. But I don't think that there's a free agent that's like, yeah, I was going to go, play in LA, but I went to Vegas because Tom's there. I don't know that that's necessarily going to be the way that plays out. Hamilton Porter says, question, how much of the Royals does Mahomes own? I actually don't know what the number is on that. Dylan, if you could do me a favor and look that up. Yeah, I don't know, but it is like a decent chunk, I think. Unnamed texter says, do you think Hopkins knew about Watson and quietly demanded a trade back then? I have no idea. That has never leaked. That has never come out. I have no way of knowing that.
1%.
Patrick Mahomes, 1% owner of the Kansas City Royals. So there you have that, Hamilton Porter. Unnamed texter, to answer your question, I just have no idea. And I don't think Hopkins is ever going to say. Watson probably didn't know if that's the case. There's no way to figure that out. That's going to come out like a book 20 years from now, and we'll all read it and go, wow, didn't realize it was that bad. All right, that's our number one of the Daily Blender in the books. We've still got a lot of action on the text line. Mr. Pink Guy, CK, Big George, pull the plug. We'll get to all of you guys, and we'll get to the National Basketball Association. That's coming up next here on the Daily Blender on 1580 and 99.3, The Fanatic.
It's fall football on The Fanatic. Catch all the live game play-by-play, Monday night, Thursday night, and Sunday day and night NFL games, plus the Saturday NCAA football game of the week. It's all right here on the Valley's home for football. 1580 and 99.3, The Fanatic. Brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
Order for Jennifer C.
Is this my double shot, double cream, double froth, double pump, double hot, double whip, double sleeve?
Yeah. Can you handle that much caffeine?
Hey, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Well, I do now.
Seriously, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, you just said that.
Did you say I just said that?
Yeah, I'm cutting you off.
Did you say you're cutting me off?
You earn We Match, unlimited cashback match. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
In most countries of the world, Porte means door. United Porte Custom Doors, located in the Scottsdale Airport Design District, is now open with over 40,000 European doors, all in stock, ready for delivery, and at wholesale prices. Designers, contractors, builders, and yes, you. Come see our showroom on Greenway Hayden Loop. That's United Porte, Porte. Stop by to see and feel the quality at United Porte Custom Doors. Find us at uporte.com. That's uporte.com.
J.D. Hayworth here, and the road to feeling better leads to my good friends Dr. William and Ava Gaspar at Beehive IV Wellness in Chandler. With both licensed nurses and physicians on staff by appointment or walk-in, Beehive IV Wellness takes a holistic, naturopathic approach that helps your body with self-healing. All of today's popular treatments are available at Beehive Wellness, from IV hydration to joint injections, even popular semaglutide for weight loss. If you haven't tried IV treatment, you're missing out on your chance to really get healthy. So look them up, make an appointment, or simply walk into Beehive IV Wellness at their Chandler Clinic, where you always get a free initial consultation. Mention me, J.D. Hayworth, get half off your first treatment. Search Beehive IV Wellness on your mobile phone. You'll thrive with Beehive.
Hey guys, Jeffrey O'Brien here. Did you know Harman Solar has gone super high tech? There's an amazing tool at harmansolar.com that'll give you an instant ballpark solar estimate using satellites from space. You just type in a little information, and within seconds, you'll have an idea of just how little money it takes to save big on that monthly electric bill. I did it, and within seconds, they measured my roof and calculated my savings. It's very impressive. Go to HarmonSolar.com and give it a try yourself. That's HarmonSolar.com.
KQFN Tempe. Also transmitting on K257CD Phoenix at 99.3 FM and K240 EU Mountain Hills at 95.9 FM.
Let people settle down.
Because it's time.
Time for what?
Showtime.
When does it start?
Right now. 3, 2, 1.
Let's get on with the show. Let's do it.
Hour number 2 of the Daily Blender. My name is Keon Rose, and joining me is my beautiful co-host, Dylan Cohen. As we chug along here on a Tuesday afternoon, a lot of NFL action on and off the field in the last 24 hours. We'll get to that. You're on the text line at 888-368-1580. And we are going to pivot to some NBA here just a little bit. But before we do that, I want to clean up the text line and get to some of these texts that we had going on before we went. So before the hour ended, unnamed texter asked a question about Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins, and then Mr. Pink Eye asked a question about who do I think has the better chance to go unbeaten, Army or Navy. And Mr. Pink Eye, I'm gonna have to think about that one because I have to rack my brain a little bit. I haven't watched a ton of Army or Navy this season, so I genuinely don't feel qualified to answer that particular question. Even though, you know, I did watch a Navy game that I really liked this year. So there's that. CK says, I just text Shenanigans and told him to offer a 4th and a 6th for Buddha. Yeah, not happening in the division. Shenanigans, by the way, is what CK calls Kyle Shanahan. He calls him Kyle Shenanigans, and I'm stunned. I'm genuinely stunned that nobody else has thought about that before CK. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not using it. I will absolutely be using that out in public in the wild. Just had to refresh the old text line there because it just gave me a little thinky wheel of death. And now we can kind of get back to it. I'll jump up to pull the plugs text because he says, will Brady bring in his old coach? And then he texted a show that has nothing to do with this show. Why would he do that? I don't understand. What do you mean will Brady bring in his old coach? He owns 5% of the team. He doesn't have the sway to bring in anybody. Mark Davis will be deciding who the coach is, as he always decides who the coach is.
Is
now,
he talking Bruce Arians or is he talking Bill Belichick?
I think it's got to be Belichick. I mean, but like, no. And I don't think that Belichick and Brady are so close that, that Brady would bring him in and say, hey, nah, Bill, I got you. I got you the hookup here. We'll get you a job. I just don't think that that is going to happen. Bullseye says, how can I enter the NFL Lightning Sweepstakes? I don't know what that is, Bullseye. What do you mean by what is the NFL Lightning Sweepstakes? I have never. I don't know what you mean. Big Jake says, let's see, because he has a few texts going back all the way through hour number 3. I'm not entirely certain how we missed all of those. So let's see if we can get back up to. No, this is his text from yesterday. Why is it giving me? Why is it giving me his text from yesterday? Bruno Baller's text from yesterday. And moist one from earlier today with the text I already read. The text line is drunk and needs to go home. Big Steve says Brady is going to limit it as a broadcaster now. Fox wasting $37 million a year with the restrictions.
I was thinking that too, and I almost brought it up when we were chatting about it before, because as an owner of a team, he's not allowed to criticize like other players and other teams.
Yeah.
And then he's expected to be a broadcaster. So
Now, granted, you can do that. I mean, you're just going to have to be incredibly complimentary of everything that everybody is doing. But yeah, there are a lot of restrictions on the kinds of things that you can say and do. And that's going to make the broadcasting job harder. It's almost like Fox didn't think about this at all when they made the move. They saw a big name and they threw money at it. And now they're kind of stuck.
Well, in one of the, criticisms of Brady's broadcasting early on was just that, like, he was, kind of just sort of awkward, like, almost like robot-like. And now with him becoming an owner, it limits like his ability to inject his personality into the commentary. So I would imagine he could still criticize whatever's happening on the field. You know, if someone makes a mistake, he can probably call that out. You know, if someone's not playing particularly well, he can call that out. But it seems like that's, you know, where it's gonna
it can't get to the level of ownership. It can't get to the level of front office, probably, which is something that would also come up over the course of a broadcast. If Tom Brady was doing the Jets game, for instance, he'd have to mention that Davante Adams is getting traded to the Jets. Now, what if Tom didn't like that idea? What if he thought that was a dumb trade? He couldn't say so. just according to the rules that are restricting him, he can't say that.
And then, you know, that prevents him from trying to add more personality to, you know, what he's doing broadcasting.
What little personality is there, if we're going to be 100% honest? There's not much, and adding more is going to be a struggle for him. Now that he can't say anything.
Makes me kind of excited to actually watch it. So perhaps Fox was onto something there.
I mean, maybe they were going with the train wreck approach, which is like, look, if it's happening and it's bad and it's ugly, people will still watch Tom Brady be deeply unsuccessful at this thing. In fact, probably because it's Tom Brady, they might even enjoy it. I don't know, but I all I know is that I have not quite enjoyed my time watching Tom Brady on TV. Bullseye says, "Damn, I sent that text yesterday. Randy was talking about the NFL Lightning sweepstakes, and I did not understand what he meant. But thanks for reading my text 24 hours later." Yeah, you can thank the text line for that one. The text line just decided to give you my text from give me your text from yesterday, and that is how we got here. So now I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the text line is all cleaned up. We'll get back to what we were getting to earlier, which was hoping to pivot to a little bit of NBA, because the Suns are gearing up for another season this year. New coach in the building, and that kind of changes a whole lot of things, Dylan. And I'm really excited about what the Suns can be this year, because I think that a couple of things. I think Mike Budenholzer just having them shoot more threes, and he made it very clear that was a point of emphasis that he wanted to have for this team. Getting them to shoot more threes is going to help them a ton, but also having a real point guard. That's his job. That is his actual title. That is what he is actually good at. Not just any point guard, but Tyus Jones, who is someone who is very, very respected around the league, and someone who has been on the rise for a while. He's been trade bait for the last couple of seasons. And we'll be honest, he was with the Wizards last year. The Wizards screwed up. They meant to trade him at the deadline. Then they kind of decided against it. Then he gets hurt, and Jordan Poole kind of takes over the point guard job. And they're like, okay, I guess we can just tank like this for a while. Why do we need Tyus Jones to do this? So Tyus Jones walks in free agency. And the teams that were out there were offering Tyus a lot of money. And he turned down that money to come here to Phoenix and play for the Suns. And now the Suns have a tried and true, bona fide NBA point guard leading their offense. How does this make them better?
You know, Tyus Jones, to most people, I mean, he's not a brand name. You know, he's probably coming across as more of an afterthought. So there's just a very wide public sentiment of this doesn't help the Suns. This doesn't do anything for them. Tyus Jones has never made an all-star game. Tyus Jones has, you know, never been a huge impact player. And, you know, this just doesn't move the needle for them. That's been a very popular sentiment. That's how odds makers have priced the addition of Tyus Jones to the Suns. You know, there's a lot of texts we get that kind of follow along those lines. There's just a lot of general commentary that you'll see from other NBA insiders out there about Tyus Jones. They're all wrong. Tyus Jones is the biggest impact player the Suns have added since Chris Paul came to the Suns and turned our fortunes and got us all the way up to the NBA Finals, because he is a master playmaker. There is a huge impact that Tyus Jones is going to have on this roster that you will see play out over the course of the season. And that's number one, because this guy is naturally an elite playmaker. I mean, he was top 10 in the NBA for assists per game last year with a much lesser offensive roster to work with. He led the league for the last, I think it's 2 or possibly 3 years in assist to turnover ratio, which
Yeah, I know he was up top last year, and it was by a lot, at least by midseason a year ago. So he's damn good.
And that in itself addresses a big problem that the Suns had, especially last year, in just having a lot of careless turnovers and not properly managing a game when it comes to crunch time. You know, the final 5 minutes in the fourth quarter, that is where you need an orchestrator to come in, particularly when you've got 3 elite scorers in Booker, Beal, and Durant that, you know, if you're going to put that playmaking responsibility on either one of them, it's going to take away from all of their ability to score. All 3 of those guys are natural, deadly scorers on the court. They can pretty much score from just about anywhere. They're excellent isolation players, and they just didn't have anyone to command the offense
and really set them up and get them into those spots. Like everybody, if you listen to top point guards in the NBA talk about the position, what they are going to tell you a lot of the time is, all right, you figure out where your guy is the best from, where does he feel the most comfortable, and you try to get them in those spots. And it's hard to orchestrate that for other people when that's not your main identity as a player, which that's not Booker's identity, is setting up other guys. It's not Beal's identity, really. And it's certainly not Durant's identity. He can do it a little, but they all can do it a little. But to have someone full-time be able to do that, that's absolutely huge. And then the other aspect of it is just getting those guys to focus on just that, like you said. It means a lot for Kevin Durant and that basketball IQ to already know what he's going to do once he gets the ball, instead of already thinking about, all right, well, I've got the ball, so now I've got to force my way to where I want to be on the floor. And then I've got to figure out if I'm being doubled this play or not. And then, like, there's so many extra steps to it. Kevin could just get to his spot, get the ball from Tyus, and shoot it. That's it. That's all. All the middle stuff that you saw this team struggling with, where you saw a lot of the bad turnovers, the fourth quarters where they would just implode on themselves, all that stuff is going to be reduced a lot by just having somebody who can run your offense properly.
Well, and Tyus Jones is going to force opposing defenses to make some sacrifices, because without him, it was a lot easier to try and cover the big 3 in Booker, Beal, and Durant. And now with Tyus Jones, and this is what we haven't been able to see yet because we haven't seen, you know, the true starting 5 with Jusuf Nurkic in there as well. There's going to be a bit of a 2-man kind of dynamic on that offense between Nurkic and Tyus Jones, because they're going to be the 2 that ultimately get neglected, you know, as defenses are trying to figure out ways to prevent, you know, Booker, Beal, Durant from scoring. And what it's going to lead to is a lot of open 3-pointers for Tyus Jones and a lot of open looks for Jusuf Nurkic down low. And those are the 2 types of shots that you want to focus on, you know, any NBA offense. You want the easy, close to the rim, you know, layups, and then you want to shoot a very good volume of 3-pointers. And that's exactly what that's going to do. And then, you know,
and then you've got actions you can run off of that, because Nurkic can shoot too. So now, is he down in the post? Wait, I thought he was down there. Why is he out there shooting threes? There's a lot of different things that the Suns can do that could be really nasty as far as their offense goes.
Well, and I just want to put this into perspective too, because Devin Booker said this in the Suns media day when they announced the signing of Tyus Jones. I mean, you know, some shockwaves in the NBA. It was in July. You know, the Olympics were, you know, right around the corner. That was really the focus of the media and, you know, the NBA world. But within that Team USA locker room, all the guys are going to Booker and Durant, and they're saying, how did you guys do this? How did you pull this off?
And a lot of credit, I think, goes to James Jones and Matt Ishbia. And they went to Tyus and just said, hey, here's the plan. Here's what we would like to do.
They were both
with
shocked.
you.
And Jones and Ishbia both said it. They did not expect this to work out. You know, they lobbed it out there.
Because they couldn't pay him. And Baker's cocky hands, I see your question. We'll get to that in just a second. But they can't pay him. They are over the second apron of the NFL, or the NBA cap rather. And so that means that the contracts they can give to point guards are minimum deals, not just point guards, anybody that they sign in free agency, minimum deals, except for the guys that were already on the roster to begin with. So they did a really good job of keeping guys like Grayson Allen around, making sure they don't leave, because, hey, we can actually pay you. stick around. But then a guy like Tyus Jones is a huge get because I don't know if this team is capable of getting over the hump with any other player that they might have been able to get. Like, what are you making a move for? Maybe like the corpse of Kyle Lowry. Like, there's just not a whole lot of options going on out there. And Tyus Jones is this person that could have been paid a lot of money, and a lot of teams were pursuing him. I know the Pacers were in hot pursuit of Tyus Jones, and they were offering a decent amount of cash. The pay cut he took to be here is a testament to how important winning is to Tyus Jones, and that's really special.
And it serves as somewhat of a insurance policy for the Suns to know that they're getting the absolute best out of Tyus Jones this season, because his next contract is dependent on him fitting in and, you know, showing his worth, showing his value. This is a big reason why I really believe in the Suns and their potential for success this year. So, I mean, that's, you know, a huge reason, you know, why I see them winning the Pacific Division. To be honest, I really like their potential for early season success. And if they're playing well in November and December, you know, they do that whole NBA Cup deal now. I mean, that's totally, you know, within the realm of possibility, you know, to see the Suns, you know, charge out of the gates hot early on and just taking the league by storm and looking a lot like the team of, you know, a couple of years ago where we had the best regular season record in franchise history.
And we'll see if they're capable of doing that. Let me get to the text line because the texts are rolling right in. And Big George, continuing from our previous conversation, asks a question that is going to make me lose my mind. Big George, this question is insane. Big George asks in a text, I think designed in a lab to make my head explode. How long do you think we should give Jonathan Gannon? You know, the guy who's coached a year and 6 bleeping games.
I like Gannon.
I'm gonna reel this one back in. I'm gonna try and be a reasonable person today. He's been pretty subpar so far. No, he has not, Big George. I'm willing to give him another season or 2. That's how long you give him, Big George. But we better start making some progress next season or else he needs to go. Big George, your roster is bad. It sucks. All right? Can we just be honest about what the Cardinals are? There's a lot of optimism on this team. Trey McBride is a bright spot. James Conner, bright spot. Marvin Harrison Jr., bright spot. We don't even know what your quarterback is right now. Your offensive line sucks. All right? Every other receiver not named Marvin Harrison Jr. could be traded tomorrow, and you would not feel the difference. Outside of Budda Baker, what the hell even is your defense? Let's just be real about this. The expectations that Cardinal fans had for this team, out of proportion entirely. Let the team build. They need talent first before you start trying to talk about, should we fire the coach? There is no coach that's winning football games with this team. And last week was the first game they finally looked like they didn't play hard. The first time. I'm sorry, have you seen any other, was the last regime able to squeeze anything out of Dennis Gardeck the way that this regime is right now? Let them work, Big George. Come on, man. This is absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe that you asked that question, and I can't believe I wasted the air in my lungs answering it. I genuinely cannot. How dare you?
It does not matter who the coach of that team is, right?
No,
that isn't where the issue lies.
What? I just genuinely sometimes we as fans, I got to say this. What is it that most of us think coaches do? He can't perform magic spells. The roster isn't good yet.
We're cleaning up like a big culture.
Yeah,
mess.
I'm sorry. You had Keim for 5 years. You don't fix that in 1 or 2. Your Monty Ossenfort needs 4 years. He does, to clean out what was here. He moved into a new place as a chef. He moved into a kitchen, and the cupboard was just empty. And then you're wondering about, well, how come the head chef can't cook anything? There's no food, Big George. It's an empty pantry. I was in a really good mood before that question.
You know, they
Just-
probably set up some breathalyzers, around the team facility now.
You
and,
got a GM that was getting.
we're trying to focus.
DUIs every other week, and you're wondering why the team is bad now. Hold on a second.
Well, it wasn't even just the GM getting a DUI. It seemed like almost like once, at least once per season, a player or front office member, someone is getting pulled over on the corner of Shea and Scottsdale Road for something that they shouldn't be doing.
Something that should not be happening. Look, I just George, you're going to kill me here. I'm going to have an aneurysm on air. So I'm going to calm down, count to 10, or count backwards from 10, whichever one you're supposed to do. And then when I come back, we're going to answer the rest of these questions about the Suns. I see a few of them coming in. Niner Napolis, Hefty Lefty, Baker's Cocky Hens, Walter Mellon, Bat Flipper, and others. Just that, wow, that's a lot of text. All right, we'll get to that on the other side here on the Daily Blender on 1580 The Fanatic.
Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win, breakaway, pick six, three-point shot, underdog win, buzzer beater, shootout, walk-off, and absolutely every play in between is amazing. From football to basketball and hockey to baseball, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Arizona.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has made Wesley a trusted resource for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit. 800-626-5252. 800-626-5252. 800-626-5252.
Let's say you've got questions. You're looking into solar, but you don't know where to start. Well, Harman Solar has the answers. Hi, I'm Jeffrey O'Brien, and listen, there's a couple of ways you can go here. One, visit harmansolar.com, browse around, because right across the page, they got links to all sorts of great information, like frequently asked questions, equipment, tax credits, even testimonials. Or just give them a call, 800-281-3189. Ask them directly. They'd love to hear from you. That's 800-281-3189. Or just go to harmansolar.com.
Championship weekend is coming back to the desert. 4 title races in 3 days means there will be a buzz in the air all weekend long. NASCAR Championship Weekend at Phoenix Raceway, November 8th through the 10th. Get your tickets now at phoenixraceway.com.
My name is Mary Grace. There are a few misconceptions about Alzheimer's. It's not just memory loss. It's the loss of mobility, the risk of falling.
For more information, contact the Alzheimer's Association at alz.org, sponsored by the Alzheimer's Association.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Ken Barkley here, reminding you to check out You Better You Bet. Why, you ask? Well, because we bring the fun, the insight, and all the wagertainment you need. Plus, hopefully, we win a couple bets along the way. From up-to-the-minute breakdowns of backdoor covers, bad beats, and the cheers and tears that come with them, obviously. Plus, betting analysis from some of the best minds in the sports wagering world. Join myself and Nick Costos and tune into You Better You Bet. Weekdays from noon to 3 on Arizona's sports betting station 1580 and 99.3, The Fanatic.
So we've got the text rolling in on the text line, but I want to get back. Big George did send another text. I don't think this clarifies what he means anymore, but I will apologize for raising my voice to you, Big George. That was very rude. But he said, I am just asking the question. And I get that you're asking the question. I'm saying the question angers me because it's a silly question. That's what I'm saying. Big George goes on to say, I did not say that Jonathan Gannon should be fired. But at some point, this team needs to show improvement. You can't just be a 5 or 6 win team every year and be like, oh, shucks, let's just give him more time. Big George, NFL timelines are roughly 4 to 5 years. If your last GM was so bad that your roster won 3 games with a coach who actually had the team playing better than it's ever played with the last group of people there, at least playing harder than they've ever played, that means you don't have talent. How can you judge Jonathan Gannon's ability to coach when the players are not good? That's what I'm trying to tell you. You need time. And you're saying in the next 2 years. Yes, that's what I'm telling you. 3 years is like the minimum you give a new coach and general manager together. And then if the general manager goes, okay, I got everybody that I think is good, I got a roster that I think can compete, and the coach isn't getting it done, then the general manager will oftentimes move on from that coach and get somebody who can actually do with his roster what he believes it's capable of doing. But right now, the person under the gun isn't Gannon. It's Monty Ossenfort. He's got to get the players on the roster through the draft, through free agency, etc. And he's working on that. He's had a couple of good drafts. He's had at least one really good free agency. So let's see, as they continue to move forward, what kind of team they can have. Now, if in year 3, year 4, this looks like a team that is not going anywhere, then you need to assess. Is it because the players aren't good enough? In that case, then you have to fire the general manager, and you're probably losing the coach too.
Well, and Big George, the Cardinals have gone a full calendar year, more so than that, without having one single active player get arrested. So there's some improvement.
That means the priorities in the building very different, and I would argue better. All right, let's get back to the text here and see if Niner Napolis was able to land that massive parlay that he was talking about the other day. He says, thanks for the hedge advice yesterday, gentlemen. It definitely helped take away a couple of drops of sweat, considering the amount of sweat that was pouring all night last night trying to finish off that parlay. But I did bring it home.
There we go.
Thanks again. So yeah, Niner Napolis getting himself paid.
There could have even been like an opportunity there to like cash out the Jets hedge. I mean, granted, this would have been risky. This would have been sweaty, but then you kind of double dip and you can make money on both teams in the matchup. That's like the ideal thing. But either way, I mean, you still won.
Yeah, look, you came out on top, and that's what we care about because we root for people who make bets here on the 1580 The Fanatic, this whole radio station, quite frankly. We're all about the betting. Hefty Lefty says Lakers and Suns are seeing a lot of each other early this season. 3 preseason games against each other, October 25th, then the 28th, then November 22nd. The last game is going to be a chippy one, I predict. Yeah, I have a feeling too. There's a little bad blood. And honestly, both of these teams, the expectations were high last year. The expectations will be high again. There's going to be some bad blood. I don't think that it's wrong to say that for the Suns and the Lakers, they almost have to go through each other to do anything that they actually want to do going into this season. Like, not just as a regular season, but also, the win totals are going to count. This is a tight Western Conference. So the Suns are going to have, an opportunity to maybe win some games that might push the Lakers into that play-in spot. Like, nobody wants any of that. Like, there's some bad blood going on here.
The Lakers are going to be I don't want to say bad out the gate, but the more that they have to figure out how to navigate the massive distraction that is Bronny and LeBron, sharing the bench and, possibly being on the court together, it takes away from their focus on winning games and trying to get into the NBA finals. And I'm telling you, and as this gets more exposure to the world, you will see what I'm talking about. But when LeBron James and Bronny are together, whether they're on the court together or simply just on the bench, it is a spectacle that is bigger than the actual game itself. And the focus is completely removed from trying to win a basketball game. And it's all about, what is Bronny going to, do to help LeBron, get a bucket or vice versa.
Yeah. Is there going to be a no-look pass from LeBron to Bronny? Is there going to be an alley-oop? It's going to be that. And it could potentially be a massive distraction. Baker's Cocky Hens, by the way, has a very good question on the text line that I don't know the answer to. And it says, at what point can the Suns pay Jones more money? Can they give him a big deal next season, or is it restricted for future years? And that is actually something I don't know whether, if you get him on the roster, once he is a rostered player, if you can pay him more money, there is going to be a restriction on that, but I genuinely don't know what that is off the top of my head, because this new cap rule with the NBA, I don't know if you've seen the breakdown of it. There are bylines that just there's like 60 sub rules, every rule with it. It's crazy.
It's a lot more nuanced than it's ever been before. I would say, look, if we just go best case scenario here, Suns are insanely good and we make it all the way to the finals and we win our first championship, there is a little bit of leeway. It would probably still involve the Suns needing to move a couple of other contracts off the books. But yeah, I mean, if that's how good the product is,
yeah. The thing is, if it's successful,
Matt
you
Ishbia he will justify the cost.
Yeah,
he already is right now. I mean, if you look at literally the payrolls of all the NBA teams, the Suns have the largest payroll, and it's
it's not particularly close.
No.
Yeah, I mean the Suns were like top 3 last year. Then now it's just them, and a lot of that is just going over the first and second apron in fees. A lot of that is what the payroll is. Just all that extra money that they have to pay in luxury tax.
Suns payroll this year is $232 million. Oh my
gosh.
And the next highest payroll is Minnesota at $209 million. And they managed to decrease their payroll slightly in that Karl Anthony Towns trade that they just did too. So, I mean, are the Suns going to keep this all together for, that long? That remains to be seen. If Tyus Jones is as good as we believe he's going to be, I don't think it's going to be something where he's simply just going to walk. I mean, is another team going to come in and put more money down on the table? That's probably going to happen.
But if they look like they might get close, I think it might be easier to convince Tyus Jones to come back for whatever money you would be able to pay him. Baker's cocky hands. That's a very good question. Let's see here. We got some Walter Mellon on the text line saying, I'm excited for the Suns season. I'm pulling out as much money from my 401k that I can put down for all of them to win. Just kidding. But I am excited though. And I think you should be. I think that there is a reasonable expectation that this team is going to be significantly better, at least offensively, than they were a year ago. Bat Flipper says, would you guys consider Beal being 6th man and done starting for both defense and on starting 5 and points coming off the bench? I mean, like, I don't know exactly what Bud's going to do, but I just think that if you have the ability to stretch a defense out with Beal and Booker and Durant out there, if there is a day where a team is not capable of focusing on Beal because, maybe Durant's killing them, I think you'd be better off having Beal out there just for the offensive upside. And keep in mind, that's what your coach is now. You ditched the defensive guy a year ago. You're now on to a guy who's known as a brilliant offensive coach. The Moist One says, no, Moist One, I'm not reading that one. I mean, I'm not surprised that you would say that, but no, I'm not reading that. Mr. Pink Eye says, KD didn't share with Curry or Kyrie. Why would KD listen to Tyus Jones? I won't be shocked if KD is moved if the Suns start slow. What do you mean he didn't share with Curry? He did. That's why they won a title. What do you?
Yeah,
and he didn't play any games with Kyrie because Kyrie was like, I'm not going to get a COVID shot. The state of New York said, okay, cool. You can't go to work.
Well, we got a very, very small, limited sample size of James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. And for that small amount of games,
they won a lot.
It was cohesive. There was sharing.
There was sharing. I don't know what you mean by that, Mr. Pink. I completely disagree with you. Sir Drives a Lot says, 2 weeks, Big George, 2 more weeks. Big George didn't even make it to a season and a half before he was like, so should we send our coach to Siberia? I mean, if you want, but I don't think that that's exactly the best way to run an NFL team. Big George has got an itchy trigger finger. That's what I think.
Big George wants Cliff Kingsbury back.
602 Pass Fan says, if it makes you feel better, Keon, I have 0 expectations for the Patriots this season. I just hope May develops and we can have a good draft and free agency for the next season. I think that's smart. Like, I don't think that you can figure out right now whether or not Gerard Mayo is a good coach. I think he is. Like, the defense, which is supposed to be his thing, that's playing well. That side of the ball is working as planned. The part that's really not working is the offense, and we already know that they had holes on the roster there. So, yeah, you've got to let the Patriots do their thing, let them work. And to be fair to you guys, I think you got yourself a dude, Drake May. I really do. I think that Drake May can go out there, and as long as he maintains his confidence, because he did take some hits on Sunday. But if he maintains his confidence, I see big things. He clearly looks better than Jacoby Brissett. And for a lot of these young quarterbacks, when they get replaced by a veteran, even if the veteran is a kind of a journeyman, he's bouncing around the league. Look at Andy Dalton and how much better he's made the Panthers just by being more experienced. The fact that you could have the young guy come in and have the roster look better almost right away, and with those wide receivers, there's something to work with there, and you got to give the Patriots time. Sounds like you're doing that. Quiet Cannon says, Keon, it sounds like Big George is searching for that one hot button that will finally push you over the edge. The issue is, like, I just think that when you're impatient with a coach, you end up having to reset everything all the time. I don't think you want to be looking at your coach after less than 2 seasons and asking yourself if he's the guy, unless he is so bad that you have to start asking that question. Like Antonio Pierce, it's not an on the field thing. It's an on the field, off the field thing where I'm like, I just don't like that guy. I just think that what he has, I don't think he can build on it because he's not acting in a way that leads to a solid locker room culture. I don't think you can say that about Jonathan Gannon in that same way. I think the locker room culture in that building has clearly changed, and I think it's changed for the better, but they don't have a lot of the talent that they need. And if you ask any scout, talent evaluator about the Cardinals, they'll all tell you that they need more talent. That's the reason they're losing. I don't think that you could say, well, because the coach hasn't made the talent magically play football better, it's time to move on from the coach. That just sounds wild. Donnie says Suns and championship talk. Lol, good one. Donnie, I don't think I've ever seen your team in a finals.
Just watch, Donnie. Just watch.
I mean, it's easy for you to say good one, but I've been in the Valley for just 3 years. I've seen the Suns in the finals at least once. I don't think I've ever seen your team in a finals. I don't know that that's the best thing that you want to be taking shots at with your particular squad right now. They're a good squad, but do something first. Hefty Lefty says, I think Reddick will get the father-son court thing out of the way in the first game. Just do it game 1 and let that be that. The media will still try and milk it until the cow looks like a prune, but that comes with the territory of having the most Hollywood player on the most Hollywood team. I think that's probably the best way of handling it.
That's a fantasy. Because that's just assuming that people just want to see this once, and then the appetite for it just goes away.
But I think that's the best way for Reddick to try to handle it. Like, I don't know what else he's supposed to be able to do except to say, hey, guys, go out there. It's that episode of The Simpsons where everyone's like, Bart, say the line. and then he says it. It's like, all right, guys, go out there, just do the lob, get it over with. I think that they'd be better off trying it. But I do also agree with Hefty Lefty. It may not be up to you. The media is going to want more. If you give it to them once, especially in LA, especially with the Lakers, they're gonna want some more.
Well, let alone every single stadium that the team travels to. I mean, granted, if Bronny is not showing enough worth, I would hope the Lakers, will be able to look at this and make a real basketball decision and say, okay, we need the best 15 people, on the bench possible, or, 12, whatever the number is. Bronny doesn't cut it. Let's get him over to the G League. But what I'm afraid of,
which by the way, I'm a little doubtful that LeBron's going to allow that to happen, because Bronny does not have the 2-way contract that you basically can just compel a player to go to the G League, and then they have no choice. It's like, oh no, teams assign you to the G League. Get your ass on over there. Bronny doesn't have to go if he doesn't want to.
Well, this is still a business too at the end of the day. And that's where, this whole thing is just going to, really show this kind of clash of, are we in the entertainment business, or, are we a basketball team with serious, aspirations to try and win the whole thing? Because there is going to be a business element to this. If they happen to feature Bronny, more heavily than expected, they're probably selling out all of those Lakers home games. But on the road, we saw, what kind of a draw Wemby was last season. Just about any time the Spurs came to town, everyone wants to see Wemby, play. And that was selling tickets on the road. The NBA, they see this. They have a say in this. I don't know if that means Adam Silver's getting on the phone with JJ Redick and saying, play Bronny more. I'm not trying to imply that, but if there's revenue to be made, if there's tickets being sold, if there's more eyeballs tuning in on TV, this thing is not going to stop.
the thing is, it will have to at a certain point, just out of, if the Lakers want to win games, Bronny is not one of the 5 most qualified people to be on the floor at any point in an NBA game. I've watched enough preseason with Bronny. If you can't look good or halfway decent there, you're probably not going to look halfway decent during the regular season on this court. Teams are going to hunt you like they've been hunting him in the preseason. He's a matchup nightmare. They will find him on the floor and try to score on him the way that they've been doing in the games that don't even matter.
This is a huge test for LeBron. I mean, this is his son. Is he going to be able to stay objective about the whole dynamic?
He hasn't been objective about any part of this process. I genuinely think that I doubt that a lot.
And that's honestly what I've been observing too. And going all the way back to the draft, where he was drafted, how he got drafted, the contract that he got, he hasn't been objective at any point throughout this entire process. If he was, he would have encouraged Bronny to go to Ohio State or, to stay at USC.
Or transfer to some smaller school where you can be the best player on the floor and really make yourself good and really showcase what you're about. He did not do that, and there were a lot of schools that would have offered Bronny, the world essentially. It would have been a nice NIL payday, and he would have still gotten his chance to make it to the NBA. Instead, what we have is this contrived thing that may or may not blow up entirely in the Lakers' faces. Kiss the Cook says, "Hey, I have more Texter nicknames if you want them." Kiss the Cook, here's what I invite you to do. Hang on to those, and then when Randy's on the show tomorrow, send them to him. He's got the master list of Texter nicknames that we like to go through. And the Berg, with the final text on this version of the text line, all finally cleared up, he simply says, "Fire Big George." So the Berg has been calling for the firing of Big George for a very long time. And that's kind of where we're at. Whenever Big George asks for someone to be fired, the Berg asks for Big George to be fired. I don't know from what the legal counsel of the Daily Blender. We can't fire him from that.
That's above our pay grade.
Yeah, I mean, and also I may need the services of the legal counsel of the Daily Blender. You never know. Big George, Mr. Pink Guy, floating in on the text line. We'll get to you guys on the other side, and we'll get to a little Rookie of the Year, a little MVP talk here on the Daily Blender on 1580 The Fanatic.
Hey, sports bettors, Jeffrey O'Brien here to tell you about my favorite sportsbook and casino, and that is BetUS.com. Football's back, so it's time to get in on the action. I endorse one sportsbook and casino, and that is BetUS. If you want a game plan to win this season, then check out BetUS. BetUS went large for you this season with a huge offer, a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. That's right, a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. BetUS offers value other sportsbooks simply don't offer. Gamblers insurance, crypto bonuses, and casino bonuses. Plus, they have all the products you need. Competitive odds, parlays, live betting, odds boosts, and prop betting. And when you're ready to lay down your bet, give your bet an edge. Why not combine your sign-up bonus with knowledge? Get that knowledge with expert analysis, picks, and predictions on all major sports on their very own BetUS TV. Get started today at BetUS.com or give them a call at 1-800-MY-BETUS. BetUS, where the game begins.
4 years. That's how long it took Democrats to ruin our economy and plunge our southern border into anarchy. Who helped them hurt us? Ruben Gallego. Washington could have cut taxes for Arizona families, but Ruben blocked the bill. And his fellow Democrats gave a bigger break to the millionaire class in California and New York. They played favorites and cost us billions. And Ruben wasn't done yet. Democrats could have secured the border. Instead, they invited an invasion and used our tax dollars to pay for it. Ruben Gallego even backed the law to let them vote in our elections. Don't give Gallego and the Democrats another 4 years to hurt us. Give your support to a real Arizona leader, Kari Lake. Kari and the Republicans will secure the border, support our families, and never turn their backs on us. Kari Lake for Senate.
I'm Kari Lake, candidate for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Kari Lake for Senate and the NRSC.
Order for Jennifer C.
Is this my double shot, double cream, double froth, double pump, double hot, double whip, double sleeve?
Yeah. Can you handle that much caffeine?
Hey, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Well, I do now.
Seriously, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, you just said that.
Did you say I just said that?
Yeah, I'm cutting you off.
Did you say you're cutting me off?
You earn We Match, unlimited cashback match. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
Now open in Scottsdale. It's United Forte Custom Door Showroom with 40,000 Euro doors and hundreds of state-of-the-art designs and finishes on display, plus kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, and more, all at wholesale prices. Builders, contractors, designers, and yes, you. Come see our showroom on Greenway Hidden Loop. That's United Forte, P-O-R-T-E. Stop by to see and feel the quality. United Forte Custom Doors. Find us at uporte.com. That's uporte.com.
We know how it goes. You can't always tune in and hear your favorite shows and hosts.
Dude, look, I'm a loser. Okay?
It's cool, bro. That's why we post podcasts of your favorite shows and hosts. Listen when you want to. Listen on demand.
That is great and frankly kind of amazing.
Go to 1580thefanatic.com to download.
Currently in hour number 2 of the Daily Blender, and we've got text from Big George. Keon, my apologies. I did not mean to get you riled up. I don't want Gannon fired. Just posing the question and playing devil's advocate. By the way, I just sent over on this date in sports history. Sorry for sending it over late. I was stuck at the San Diego County Clerk's office all day getting some vital records, which, hey, no. Yeah, I mean, obviously, do your job. I mean, you're allowed to be late. But appreciate it. We'll get to on this date in Big George's sports history later on. And yeah, like I understand you asking the question, but I just think you're putting the cart before the horse. You can't judge the coach until the GM does his job, which that's a multi-year job. You know, I everybody kind of wants to be the Houston Texans from last year where you were really bad and then you go from there to first place in your division and you're competing in the playoffs. Like, as much as that is the dream, that's not how it goes for most teams. That's not realistic to ask. That was a Texans team that clearly wasn't as bad in reality as it looked on paper. And adding a quarterback that's going to play at a high level is going to help any football team. The Cardinals had a lot of turnover. They changed a lot of things. They didn't add a quarterback. They kept the same guy that they had. And so in addition to the distinct lack of talent in key parts of this team, you know, the fact that Jonathan Gannon is essentially, I mean, some of his defensive schemes are absurd just for them to play bad defense.
You know, something that we haven't brought up yet, and I'm kind of shocked that we're not seeing more chatter about it just from like NFL media in general, but with how well we're seeing this rookie class of quarterbacks play so far, it makes you think about Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, just kind of the forgotten man.
Who, I mean, I would expect him to play better than Spencer Rattler and potentially Drake May. So if he's somewhere in the neighborhood of Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, maybe in between, you know, those two sets of quarterbacks there.
Because we got 6 years of Bo Nix, but people forget we got about 6 years of Michael Penix too. Like, that's also a very experienced quarterback. We already know his bona fides. Like, he can play. And like that Falcons team is a team that probably fits him very, very well. I mean,
he's 6'2". We'll take him. I'm just saying, like, I mean, this is the kind of thing where I hope his agent is thinking of ways to get his guy on the field,
especially considering his age. He's one of the older quarterbacks in this draft class, if not the oldest one. I can't remember off the 24. Top of my head. Yeah, like that's pretty late for you to be winding up an NFL rookie. And then to be on the bench behind a guy who is clearly the starter, because Kirk Cousins, they didn't give him all that money so that he could come off the bench. So that's going to be Kirk Cousins, and not just for this year, but probably for the next couple. So we're going to see Michael Penix Jr. play when he's 27?
So, you know, perhaps Cardinals, you know, kind of just sacrifice this season. It is what it is. Maybe we move on from Buddha. Maybe we secure a very good draft pick. And maybe there's a deal to be made with the Falcons and perhaps, you know, sending Kyler on his way to greener pastures somewhere else. And perhaps that's, you know, a roadmap to getting better faster. Because to me, it's not Jonathan Gannon. It's the quarterback position. That's the fastest way to see better
mean,
results from the Cardinals on the field.
Even if you look at my Washington Commanders this year, I look at that Commanders roster and it's as bad as it was last year. It's terrible, you guys. Like it just genuinely, there are players on that team that wouldn't start anywhere else on the other 31 teams in the National Football League. But they got the quarterback, and that really does inject a whole lot of life into a team. If you get the quarterback right, it's not like Dan Quinn showed up and fixed everything. It's Dan Quinn showed up, and Adam Peters showed up, and Peters got to draft Jaden Daniels. That's what happened, and not just that, but you look at the Bears. The Bears are making kind of a turnaround too. They got Caleb Williams. Like, if you get the quarterback right, it goes a long way to speeding up that process. And it's possible right now that they think a lot of people are kind of coming to feel that maybe you don't have the right guy at quarterback here in Arizona, which does suck, but that's kind of the nature of the NFL. Mr. Pink Guy says, he says, KD got run out of Golden State. There's more to your text right there, but I'm going to stop you right there. No, he did not. He didn't get run out of Golden State. Find me the article that says he got run out of Golden State. Find that for me. Because KD, here's what happened with KD.
Draymond drove him out of Golden State.
Yeah. That's not the same as being run out of Golden State. Nobody wants to work with Draymond. I mean, that's a nightmare. But also, KD wanted to win where he's the guy on a team. There are going to always be questions about the 2 championships that Kevin Durant has, because he joined a team that was already a championship team to win it. He wanted those questions answered. And I don't think that that's unfair to want to have that answered, especially when your work life includes Mr. Draymond Green. Anyway, Mr. Pink Eye continues to say, remember when he and Green got into that fight? Yeah, that's not okay. Is that him being run out because he didn't share? Because you're changing your story a little bit, Mr. Pink Eye. You're saying he didn't share with Curry. That's not the same thing as what you said. Everybody gets into a fight with Draymond. Steve Kerr has gotten into multiple fights with Draymond.
Rudy Gobert, Yusuf Nurkic, Jordan Poole.
Well, Jordan Poole, like, his own teammates have gotten into fights with him. Steph has talked about fights he's had with Draymond. Draymond is the one who fights everybody. That doesn't prove that he got run out of Golden State because they argued on the bench in a couple of games on national TV. That is par for the course of working with Draymond. He also says KD's idea of an offense is give him the ball and move out of the way. I also disagree with that, because Kevin Durant, actually, his assist numbers went up in Golden State. Look it up. When he was playing with Kyrie and playing with James Harden, again, when they were all healthy, Kevin Durant's assist numbers were really good. That's just not true, Mr. Pink Eye. What are you saying?
So last season on the Suns, Kevin Durant averaged 5 assists per game. His career average is 4.4. With this new setup with Tyus Jones, probably likely his assists are going to go down. But to your point, it's because he's going to score more and he's going to get set up for scoring success.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Durant's a scorer. Like that's I don't understand. Like, I'm trying to understand why you want Kevin Durant to look like a point guard. He's a 7-foot small forward.
Well, and also just this notion that, the Suns are going to go on a fire sale if they don't start off well. Like, Kevin Durant has changed teams enough times in his career to where, I mean, there is something negative in kind of the narrative of his career and his legacy if, he just continues to find himself not liking the situation. So, all right, I got to just take off and go somewhere else. I think he wanted to come to Phoenix because he saw value in potentially being that guy that helps this franchise, which is the most winningest franchise in the NBA to have never won an NBA championship. He saw value in coming here and trying to help Phoenix get over the hump, because that could be the thing that really helps build his legacy. We all know that those 2 championships he got in Golden State, those are some of the weakest NBA rings ever earned in NBA history. The parity in the league was non-existent, and everything got shifted, completely in favor of the Warriors for like a 4-year period. So now Kevin Durant has a chance to wipe that all away and get arguably the most valuable NBA championship ring ever if he is that guy that helps the Suns get over the mountain and get on top and win. And there's value in that. That's why you're not seeing him, just pick up and want to run. You see Stephen A. Smith go on First Take and he's, Devin Booker wants to go to the Knicks. Oh, Suns don't want Kevin Durant anymore. And it's all just, it's noise.
Yeah.
It's fake
It's all
news.
stuff that Stephen A. Smith pulled out of his backside because he no longer does journalism. I don't know what it is. It hardly qualifies as entertainment, but it's not journalism. I can tell you that. Let's see here. Kiss the Cook says, Kiss the Cook sent me text your nicknames anyway. He said the Lames gang. Critics are waiting in the water like hungry alligators waiting to drag the Lakers under if this doesn't work. Yeah, I don't want to do that because like Bronny is catching some hate that he doesn't deserve. Bronny didn't orchestrate all of this.
And like, look, it'd be really cool if Bronny actually is surpassing expectations and he's contributing and that's a successful team. And every single time the Lakers step on the court, you're going to see Bron and Bronny together and the connection's working and they're doing really cool things and it's a great product. It's just not that realistic, guys. Bronny is not up to par yet with, where you need to be to last on an NBA court. He's just not there.
No, not at all. But the Lames gang is pretty funny. Kiss the Cook.
I do like that.
The Moist one says, he says nothing wrong with playing a wiser, more shriveled Penix. That's the Moist one for you. Big George says, for the record, Keon and Berg, I never said I wanted Gannon fired. Again, Big George. I have never said that that's what you said. Just that the question, even asking the question, is kind of silly. Not even a season and a half into the guy's tenure, the GM hasn't even had the chance to rehaul the roster yet.
Yeah, Robert Saleh got like twice as much time before he just gets pushed out the window.
Like a lot of guys will get 3 or 4 years, and then you're like, okay, I see what this is. This is not going anywhere. I just asking, because when you're saying I haven't seen a lot from him, how can you? The team's not good. That's all I'm trying to say, man. He also said, I just posed a question on the Minds of the Cardinals fan on Reddit. Well, okay, that's also a problem. Football fans on Reddit are almost as bad, if not worse, than football fans on Twitter. I would never pose a question from that place or any other social media site, to be honest. Big George also says maybe Bird should be fired from fantasy football. Ouch. He did lose to me, so I'm going to go ahead and get that in there. Coom, Bullseye, you're on the text line, and we'll get to you on the other side, and we'll talk a little bit more football, a little more NBA here on the Daily Blender, 1580, The Fanatic.
Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win, breakaway, pick six, three-point shot, underdog win, buzzer beater, shootout, walk-off, and absolutely every play in between is amazing. From football to basketball and hockey to baseball, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Arizona.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-838-6767. 800-838-6767. 800-838-6767.
Paid for by Wesley Financial Group.
We are getting ready to crown a champion. Championship weekend is coming back to the desert.
Let's get this party started.
4 title races in 3 days means there will be a buzz in the air all weekend long. Whether from the grandstands, the infield experience, or the hillside, this is your chance to witness history and make championship caliber memories for the whole family. NASCAR Championship Weekend at Phoenix Raceway, November 8th through the 10th. Get your tickets now at phoenixraceway.com.
Did you know that Wendy's has any size soft drinks for just $1? Yeah, any size, anytime. Like $1 Coke, $1 Sprite, or even $1 strawberry Fanta. Okay, could we maybe switch up the sound effect, please? I'm losing it. Wow, no, not that. Any size soft drink for just $1? Gotta be Wendy's.
Limited time only. Price and participation may vary. A la carte only. Not valid in a combo. Exclusions apply.
Now open in Scottsdale. It's United Forte Custom Door Showroom with 40,000 euro doors and hundreds of state-of-the-art designs and finishes on display, plus kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, and more, all at wholesale prices. Builders, contractors, designers, and yes, you. Come see our showroom on Greenway Hayden Loop. That's United Forte, Forte. Stop by to see and feel the quality. United Forte Custom Doors. Find us at uporte.com. That's uporte.com.
Do you know about 211 Arizona? It's a free service to connect you with resources anywhere in Arizona. Housing assistance and eviction prevention, transportation and ride services, healthcare benefits, food resources, and even utility bill support. Talk to a live operator in English or Spanish, 24 hours a day, every day of the year. Just dial 211 or visit 211arizona.org. Get connected, get answers, and get the help you need. This message is sponsored by 211 Arizona.
KQFN Tempe. Also transmitting on K257CD Phoenix at 99.3 FM and K240 EU Mountain Hills at 95.9 FM.
It's time for the third hour.
Quiet, people, settle down because it's time. Time for what?
Showtime.
When does it start?
Right now. 3, 2, 1.
Let's get on with the show. Let's do it.
Hey, welcome back to hour number 3 of the Daily Blender, hosted by me, Keon Rose, filling in for Randy White, filling in for Jeffrey O'Brien, because there's just a lot of layers to this particular onion. I'm also joined by my Beat the Book co-host, Dylan Cohen, and we've been talking a lot of hoops lately. Let's clear up the text line. By the way, this is the Harmon Solar Studios. Don't know if I mentioned that. In less sunny uptown Scottsdale, because I don't know if you've noticed, the days are getting shorter. The sun is setting earlier, which means it's a nice sunset out the windows that I can kind of see. The blinds are actually closed, but I got some orange light peeking in here. Also, you're on the text line at 888-368-1580 if you want to join the show, and we will clear up that very same text line because we got a couple more texts that rolled in after the commercial break started. We'll start with the very disgruntled Cardinals fan, Coom Coom. Coom Coom says, so for anybody post 2013, every player that was something, aside from James Conner, essentially became nothing or gets arrested. If Kyler goes elsewhere, he will have a better career. Arizona can't win at home, but they can if it's an away game. They will play harder. I just don't get it. This is a confusing football team, Coom Coom. I'll just be honest with you. They are confusingly constructed because Steve Keim was, I don't know if he was cogent the entire time that he was here. Maybe some part of it, but not the entirety of his tenure here with the Cardinals. And it very much shows out there. You can see what that is. Also, like if Kyler goes somewhere else, he may actually have a better career, if for no other reason than Kyler, I think, is one of those players that needs a really good offensive line. He needs somebody to have that push. When you look at a lot of other shorter quarterbacks who have had some success in this league, whether you talk about a guy like Drew Brees, who Kyler is obviously shorter than. I don't want to hear, but he's not as Drew Brees was not seeing over those linemen. Okay. I don't know if you've ever met an NFL lineman. I haven't, but I've met several college linemen. These people are 6'7". These people are 6'8". It doesn't matter if you're 6 feet tall. You can't see over them. You just cannot. But if those linemen push, and especially the guards are very important here. Then the Saints were always really good about paying those guards to keep in front of Drew Brees forever. You just get the requisite amount of push so that you have lanes that the quarterback can see through. When you look at Kyler and he struggles in the pocket and it looks like he can't see anything, it's because he can't see anything. But it's also because there's no lanes for him to look between. There's usually a gap between the center and the guard. There's a gap between the guard and the tackle. Kyler can't see any of that. If I would think that if I really was the Cardinals and I was trying to get the best assessment of Kyler Murray, I would be working on this offensive line tirelessly. Get this thing at least back to average.
You know, the one thing that the Cardinals really desperately need right now, I'm looking at the schedule and unfortunately they're not going to get it, They need a road game at Cowboy Stadium. That's what they need.
Because Kyler, nothing gets Kyler right like A, playing on the road. Clearly, he's a monster on the road. And B, playing in Dallas is like he just doesn't lose there.
I mean, if the Lions can go there and put up, 40 plus points, I have to imagine that would be a spot where like the Cardinals could get a win. But this is the one season that we don't play the Cowboys, unfortunately.
Yeah, so that particular built-in get right game not going to occur. The Cardinals are just gonna have to figure it out on their own. Bullseye says, question: when are you going to do the fantasy football and NFL fan pick'em standings rundown? Asking for a friend. I actually can't, Bullseye. Maybe I can do I can maybe do the NFL. I'll do the NFL fan pick'em standings next segment. I can't do the fantasy football stuff because only Jeffrey has access to all of that. He has not given it to me. Jeffrey didn't know I was filling in today. It was kind of a last second switch with me and Randy. So, Randy might have been able to get that from Jeffrey. I did not get it at all. So I can't do that. When Jeffrey returns, we'll get back to our regularly scheduled highs and lows of the fantasy football and the NFL fan pick'em. I could probably do the NFL fan pick'em. I just got to pull it up and log in and all that stuff. So I'll do that next segment. How about that? Hefty Lefty says, my hope for Bronny is for him to turn into a smaller Bruce Bowen type of player. Play defense like your life depends on it and hit wide open corner threes. That's all he needs to focus on to be a valuable member of a winning team. If he can make positive steps towards that this year, I'll count it as a successful rookie year. Not that what I think matters, but as a Lakers fan, I like to pretend it does. And you should. That's what being a fan is all about. And honestly, that's like the most reasonable path to Bronny getting on the floor at all is that defense. I think that's legit. Like he does have the ability to stay in front of other defenders. The problem with Bronny, I think, is just that he's kind of small. So he gets pushed around. It's going to be a Bronny over time when he's working in the weight room, when he's on that NBA diet, and you can start, adding the protein and adding the carbs that you need to start to bulk up. Like that's going to be the best course for Bronny there. And like, no matter what era of the NBA we're in, there's always going to be use for a 3-and-D guy, just a guy who's really good, outside of the perimeter, knocking down open shots and playing quality defense. I mean, many guys have built a career on that, not just Bruce Bowen. So that's a really good and reasonable analysis there, Hefty Lefty. Big George says, congratulations, Keon, on beating Berg in fantasy football. Sounds like Berg is the new bye week in the Premier League. He's having a rough go of it, but he did win this last week. I did see that for Berg. So, I don't want to count out Berg because I know he had a slow start last year and he still found himself in the playoffs. But, I've also been a little relieved that the trash talk towards me has stopped a little bit on account of my team's 500 this year. I'm having a solid year. I'm in 5th place in the Premier League. I am ahead of Jeffrey. So the trash talk from that direction has also slowed down a little bit. I'll take that too. Kiss the Cook says Murray would have a Hall of Fame career working at a Salad and Go. I don't think that Salad and Go has a Hall of Fame. Kiss the Cook. I genuinely don't think so. And to be clear, Kyler Murray has already had a successful NFL career by the standards of you make it past the rookie deal and they pay you a second time. Like you're doing something.
Yeah,
right?
he won. He already won.
Like,
he can walk away from the game and keep his head held high, and
he's got
happy.
generational money. I don't know what his situation is with his girlfriend or whatever, but if they have kids, like they're all good. They're all set. We are not doing anything of that nature and of that caliber. So like, I criticize athletes a lot, but I understand the idea that like those guys work their butts off to get where they are. And sometimes you get to the highest level and the highest level is just water above your head. You're just in too deep. And perhaps Kyler is. I should not have said that because here come the Kyler short jokes, I'm sure. Hefty Lefty says, shoot, just have Bronny take dad's supplements, quote unquote. What does that mean? And get jacked. Become a pest on defense and be a jacked Sasha Vujacic. Lakers fans loved Vujacic. I know.
He is realistically like a year and a half to 2 years away from having the kind of physique that he ultimately needs to like hang on the court. I mean, when you see him compared to the Suns starting 5, he is just a vulnerability right now.
I just go back and Google what Giannis Antetokounmpo looked like as a rookie. Bronny's what, 19? 20?
Barely 20. I
Yeah,
mean,
like-
just turned 20.
Yeah, like he's still a kid. He's built like a kid. That's all that is. In fact, look at Victor Wembanyama this year as compared to last year. He's just a bigger person now. He's a physically larger, more intimidating person. That just takes time and, hit the weight room, eat right. You'll be all right. I don't think you need whatever millions of dollars LeBron spends money on to be LeBron every year. Kiss the Cook says, I got it. The best fix for the Cardinals is to draft a 6 foot, 325 tackle and guards. 6 foot, 325 pound tackles and guards that Kyler can see. Well, no, because you want your tackles to be tall. Why would you want them to be tiny?
You just need like a mini O-line to go with our mini quarterback.
I mean, look, you have a guy with a center of gravity that would be impossible to knock over. But who could he stay in front of? No, I don't think that's a great idea, Kiss the Cook. But thanks for. Oh my God! And then he also came with a double text, Kiss the Cook, saying Kyler would be too deep in a wading pool. He needs water wings. Yeah, no, like I said, as I was saying it, I was like, I'm just setting this poor guy up for short jokes. There we go. Here they come. Here they come. Beer Bob says, I don't think Kyler would be able to reach the drive-through window at a Salad & Co. So there that is. Sir Drives a Lot says, water is above Kyler's head in a Solo cup. So, my God, man. Wow. That's brutal. You know what's crazy, too? Like, everybody's making fun of Kyler. Like, most of us are his height. Kyler's like 5'9", 5'10", somewhere in that range.
Do you think that there's a part of him that's still kind of toying around with like playing baseball? Because I kind of get that impression.
Because if Kyler played baseball, we wouldn't even talk about how short he is, because he'd be like he wouldn't look that small compared to the other baseball players. He just stands next to guys that are 6'5" plus. How tall is Paris Johnson? 6'6". I mean,
yeah, it really just makes it stand out like even more. Just the sport that he plays.
Yeah, it's brutal. I saw Kyler not like personally, but I was at the WNBA All-Star game, and I saw Kyler from a distance. I had very good seats, and he was courtside, and like Kyler standing next to Caitlin Clark is borderline one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Like, I don't think they didn't stand next to each other purposely. She was on the court and he was, on the sideline trying to get to his seat. But it was funny.
I just, I have never been very particular about the exact number of the height. So I just happened to look it up, and then, Google's like showing me like similar height quarterbacks. You don't hear people giving Bryce Young crap for being small.
That's the thing. Bryce Young might actually be smaller than Kyler.
Supposedly, according to Google, they are the same height.
Well, okay.
5'10".
I mean, I don't believe that either of them is 5'10", to be honest. But like 5'9", I believe. I mean, it's just looking at it from a distance. It's like you stand next to people who's 6 feet tall. It's just they're going to dwarf you. And that's Kyler's reality, unfortunately. Big Jake says, no doubt, LeBron is on the Tom Brady diet of HGH and avocado ice cream. You're gonna have to prove that. I never accuse a person of being on steroids that I don't know for a fact is on steroids, because that's one of those accusations that just A, you can't prove it, and B, like, if you're wrong, you're actually taking away from somebody's hard work. You'd have to actually prove it. Like with Barry Bonds, all of the Balco stuff came out. I was like, yeah, easy. That's an easy call to make. Also, why is his head 3 times bigger than it used to be? Like that's obvious. But like with LeBron's just kind of always been like that. LeBron was a kid coming out of high school, and he was kind of just like that. And he's just been
he was a man child.
Yeah, like when you look at Tom Brady, Tom, you've got questions about, because you're like, okay, I see the doughy guy at the beginning of the career, and now he's shredded. That seems weird. Not going to accuse Tom of anything. I never saw. I don't know. I have no evidence. But that's weird. LeBron's just kind of been this his whole life. He's just been an athletic freak. Some people just are. So I don't want to accuse every person that's astounding of steroids.
I don't think there's any individual year out of LeBron's time in the NBA where you can like look at, what did he look like this season? And then what did he look like coming into training camp the next season, and see some clear, like, oh, wow, he really like bulked up. Like his progression with his body does really appear to be as natural like as possible. I haven't gone back and looked at like his playing weight year over year.
Yeah, but like I remember watching him in Cleveland and I was like, yeah, that guy's pretty shredded. And then he got bigger over time, but then there's a point where he capped out and he's just been there.
Well, and the other thing too is like with basketball, like baseball, there are statistics that feel a lot more indicative of steroid use or supplements or just something extra. And I think it's harder to kind of read that on paper, looking at, a box score, for any given basketball game, just because someone scored 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 points. Like that doesn't mean the same thing as a guy that averaged 20 home runs for like 10 seasons. And then one season he got 60. And then, after that, it was 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. Cause like we've seen that before and it's like, okay. What happened?
Or a guy like Barry Bonds, where like the batting average stays more or less the same his whole career, but the hits that were doubles and triples are turning into home runs and they're leaving the actual stadium. It's like, okay, dude, you couldn't do that before, and we all know you couldn't do that before. That is not just fishy. That just looks like evidence of you taking steroids.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to figure in basketball. I just don't want to make that accusation about somebody like LeBron, because like he just has always been just this physically freakish guy. Big Jake is saying, he says, well, okay, God, read my earlier text, please. Stop texting then, Big Jake. Every time you text, it resets you and sends you to the back of the line. Sometimes you just got to text and like, let it sit there. We're getting to you. All right, let's see here. Oh, God. He says, the text before that, he says, the Suns are poised for a huge year, added depth at every position, a real point guard and a real coach. NBA insiders are saying 50s on the win total. I'll be betting the over on the season total. So yeah, no, I think we're kind of all in agreement there. I don't know if I'm going to go like 60s with it, because that's just hard. That's just a hard number to hit. But do I think the over is a good play? I would play it.
Before the preseason began, the Suns were like a 2-1 favorite to win the Pacific Division, and the Kings were like really like just behind them, like plus kind of 210, plus 220 territory. I just pulled up the odds now, and Suns are plus 155, Kings are plus 290, and then it just really separates a lot more from there. So, I mean, there is a very heavy expectation that it's going to come down to the Suns and Kings in the Pacific Division. I definitely like that Suns win total. It's a much better group of guys this time around, just better game plan, better coaching. So that is a bet I would totally recommend.
Yeah, so there you have it from, and Dylan, like NBA is his thing. That's just so you know. Let's see here. Swave Dave says,
oh my God, the line's at 47.5 for the Suns win total.
Oh, I take the over on that all day. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. He says, can I change my Blender League team name to Bye Week? That's where my season is heading. I think it might help out the other managers if you want to. I personally wouldn't do it, but I'm a little sensitive about that particular insult. I hope you can understand why. Screaming Goat says, just drove by the new VAI resort being built by the Cardinal Stadium. You think the pool will have a Kyler section for the kiddos?
Oh my God.
Oh my God, man. He's just 6'2.5".
Kyler Murray splash pad.
6'2.5" is far from 5'8". I don't think Kyler's 5'8". I know that's Jeffrey's thing. Jeffrey thinks that Kyler's 5'8". Kyler regularly stands next to people who are over 6 foot. I'm 5'10", and here's what I know. Justin Matabike, who I know that's not the first name he uses anymore. He switched back to his Nigerian name, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. I met him at SEC Media Days a few years ago, and he was sitting behind this table, and I was asking him questions, and he's a really nice guy, and so he's answering questions. First off, he looked like he was about to, if he flexed any muscle, he would rip out of that suit. It looked like it barely contained him. Then he stood up. And I'm 5'10". I've never felt smaller. I just felt like, oh, this guy could kill me if he wanted to. Just if he gave me a hard push in the chest, down I go, and I may never get back up. That's a big human being. And I just don't think people realize how small an average person looks. And the average American male height is 5'10". I don't think you realize how small that person looks next to a guy who's 6'3". I also had a friend who met Shannon Sharpe at a Disney World, and similar things. Just like, who is this mountain in front of me? And there was my friend Matt Tolbert. He's like 5'11". He was standing behind Shannon Sharpe, and it was like, I'm standing behind a mountain. I'm not even standing behind a person. And then Shannon Sharpe turned around, and yeah, it was a person. But my God.
So when I was Googling Kyler Murray's height, I stumbled upon some Cardinals Reddit something, and there's this like weird obsession of like people posting pictures of Kyler standing next to Andy Isabella, who, former wide receiver on the Cardinals. He's 5'9". So people are like, he looks shorter than Andy in this picture. And then there's other people that are like, he looks taller than Andy in this picture. Like, Andy is now the benchmark of whether or not Kyler is actually 5'10" or less.
I don't think he's 5'10", but I don't think he's 5'8" either. Like, that to me is just crazy. I just don't see it. He does look little out there, but like, yeah, most quarterbacks aren't that size. He is on the outside of the way things look. You know who else looked like he was dwarfed by everyone around him? Doug Flutie. It's just, I don't think Kyler. I think Kyler might be taller than Doug. I just don't think that Kyler is 5'8". I'm not buying it. Okay, I don't. You're gonna have to come with some stronger proof than, yeah, well, he looks 5'8" next to a 6'2" guy. A lot of 5'10" guys do.
There's something about being 6'2" or taller that just equates to like success on the field. I'm just kind of flying through. I put in Aaron Rodgers 6'2", I threw in Josh Allen 6'5". I just typed in Patrick Mahomes 6'2".
Yeah, my own brother is 6'3". People have been telling me I'm tiny my entire life. When I was in high school, I'm not even kidding, I developed a Napoleonic complex because of my younger brother being 6'3". But I wasn't actually short.
He was just pretty tall.
He's just enormous. Yeah, just sometimes it's like that. So no, I don't think Kyler's 5'8". The moist one says Robert Swift was definitely on the juice. Did he have his house raided? Yeah, he must have been. Didn't the police raid his house for drugs? I don't remember exactly the whole story and how that goes. But I'm pretty sure the police took his entire house apart. So I would guess yes, moist one. Oh man, we've got a lot more text coming in, and we haven't got through nearly enough. We're gonna have to get to the other side to clean this thing up, and we will do that right here on the Daily Blender on 1580 The Fanatic.
The Fanatic is your home for fall football. Catch the NFL and NCAA live games on 1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic. Brought to you by Bet365. It's never ordinary at Bet365.
4 years. That's how long it took Democrats to ruin our economy and plunge our southern border into anarchy. Who helped them hurt us? Ruben Gallego. Washington could have cut taxes for Arizona families, but Ruben blocked the bill. And his fellow Democrats gave a bigger break to the millionaire class in California and New York. They played favorites and cost us billions. And Ruben wasn't done yet. Democrats could have secured the border. Instead, they invited an invasion and used our tax dollars to pay for it. Ruben Gallego even backed a law to let them vote in our elections. Don't give Gallego and the Democrats another 4 years to hurt us. Give your support to a real Arizona leader, Kari Lake. Kari and the Republicans will secure the border, support our families, and never turn their backs on us. Kari Lake for Senate.
I'm Kari Lake, candidate for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Kari Lake for Senate and the NRSC.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduce stroke risk better than warfarin. And over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Championship weekend is coming back to the desert. 4 title races in 3 days means there will be a buzz in the air all weekend long. NASCAR Championship Weekend at Phoenix Raceway, November 8th through the 10th. Get your tickets now at phoenixraceway.com.
What's up, everybody? Nick Costos here, host of You Better You Bet, reminding you to check out the show. Now, why should you check out You Better You Bet? Because we bring you the most fun. We bring you the most insightful, the most entertaining show in the wagertainment world. From up-to-the-minute breakdowns of backdoor covers, bad beats, and the cheers and tears that come alongside them. Plus, you'll get the best betting analysis anywhere from myself, Ken Barkley, and some of the best minds in the sports wagering world. So tune in weekdays, noon to 3 on Arizona sports betting station, 1580 and 99.3, The Fanatic.
All right, so I promised it. I'll clear out the text line and then I'll give it up. We'll get to the report of the NFL fan pick'em contest and who did well, who did not do well of the hosts in this building and of the texters of the fourth dimension who finished at or around the top. But I'm going to read a couple of texts here. Kiss the Cook says. Barry Wade, $185, even 5 years after he graduated from ASU. Dope was his only hope. That's true. He just had a very small frame. But I wish he didn't do it because, he wouldn't be the home run leader, obviously, but he'd be a Hall of Famer. And that's one of the sad things of my entire life is that one of the guys that I thought was the best at playing baseball ever is not in the Hall of Fame due to his own actions, which is that he took steroids. And I don't know. You just can't. Baker's Cocky Hen says Braun and Bronny are going to be the Taylor Swift of the NBA. I don't think so. Because Taylor Swift isn't actually a distraction. She's a distraction to the people that care too much about Taylor Swift. I don't give two bleeps about Taylor Swift. So when I watch the games, I don't even notice that she's there. When she's on screen for the 5 seconds that she's on, okay, whatever. And then it's back to the football. And I would like to point out that Taylor Swift did not actually distract the Chiefs from winning a Super Bowl, a thing they did. I don't think the Lakers are going to be able to overcome the distraction of Braun and Bronny, who are two players that actually play for the team. Like, that's why that's such a distraction. Taylor's up in the press box. Like, nobody gives it. What about Taylor? Big Jake says 47.5 wins, easy future money. Just put down the C note that says so. And look, Big Jake, we appreciate that, and we agree with you. We really do. Sir Drives a Lot says Kyler runs like a toddler. Kyler runs like a toddler that nobody can catch then, because that 50-yard touchdown a couple of weeks ago against the Niners, he knew that he made it after he rounded the line of scrimmage there. He got around that offensive line and knew he was in the end zone from the beginning. And there are zero toddlers that can run that fast. He also says, have a cut of Murray by the pool. Must be this size to enter. I mean, you guys are just killing him today. And I don't know what Kyler Murray did to any of you. What, he played football badly on Sunday? That's not a new thing that's happened. Why are we tearing Kyler Murray apart today? CK says, hopefully Drake and Diddy aren't allowed at the kiddie pool. Well, I think for, again, clear and very obvious reasons that we don't have time to go into on this show. They just not like us. Big George says, already 3-0 Yankees, and it's only the second inning. This really is an easy path to the World Series for the New York Yankees. I don't know if it was an easy path, but, they
they caught the Royals slumping, and now
yeah,
they're kind of catching the Guardians slumping too.
Which that happens. Like I don't know what to tell you. I think the Guardians are a really good team. They're just not as good as the New York Yankees. And I also think that the National League is a little tougher to me than the American League. So yeah, of course it's going to be an easier path in the same way that like the Celtics getting to the NBA Finals. It's an easier path. They go through the East. The East is just weaker. There are teams in the Western Conference that will miss the playoffs this year. That if they played in the East, they'd be like a 6 seed. They'd
make like the second round.
Yeah, they probably have a really good chance of moving on. So now that the text line has all been cleared up, let's take a look at the leaders in the NFL Fan Pick'em contest. Going to go here, go to the let's go to the weekly results. Oh, good, it logged me out. That's lovely. But I did see that near the top of the season leaders was Fish Tank, who drunk picked all of his picks before the start of the season, and for whatever reason he's still the season leader in the clubhouse. All right, let's take a look at the weekly standings first for week 6. So we had a number of people excel this particular week, including Mo75, 3-peat Chiefs, JBSAZ, Chief Skull, Get Him Off the Field, Beer Bob. God, that's very small. How can I read that? Vikes How Low, Average Joe and AZ, Brett Maverick, Niner Napolis, Box of Screws, Jeffrey O'Brien, right there at 12. Those are all the top people that finished with 14 total correct picks. So good for them. Did Jeffrey get the?
All of you should be doing like some sort of like a 12 to 13 leg parlay on Sunday. Just put $1 on it. Like
what could it actually hurt? That's true. I didn't last year. I don't think I ever had a week where I was higher than 10, but I was like consistently 9 every week. This year is going a little bit better than that one. I finished at, let me find my spot here.
I was just behind me.
Yeah, I was 83rd in the NFL Fan Pick'em picks. I had 11. Where are you, Dylan, on this?
I believe I was one of the people with 12.
Let's see if I can find Ralph. Ralph was also tied with me for 11. But there was some tiebreaker, so he's ranked behind me. Where he should be, lower on the totem pole. And then do we have to talk about Randy? Randy actually had a pretty good week last week. He had 10 picks correct, but that's last of the hosts.
Oh no, I actually had 11. So you and I tied.
Yeah. So
okay.
you Ralph and
that's
I,
a good week for
me. We all tied at 11, and then we can take a look at the season totals here for the full thing. Got the season standings coming up. And for the season standings, I am 49th with 56 correct picks, which puts me behind the suddenly surging Jeffrey O'Brien. I know that he moved up a lot of spots. Jeffrey is 43rd with 57 correct picks, so he's got one more than me. Ralph from Harmon Solar is 56th. We are tied. Me and Ralph are tied every year. Every single year we're tied. And I've got a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth because we were tied going up to the Super Bowl last year. And I picked the wrong team for the Super Bowl, and Ralph didn't. And that's the end of that. I lost to Ralph by a single game picked.
I am tied with Randy, it looks like, for the season. And I did admittedly miss.
What place are you in?
Well,
oh no!
I mean, that's not the number reads 105, but the thing is there's many people tied with 52, so I'm not like in 105th place. But I mean, this is what happens when you forget to put in your picks on Thursday, and then you're missing out on extra points. So
don't do that. Always get your picks in on Thursday. That's you hear the voice of Scott Engel, the fantasy football king. That is your cue to remember to make your picks. make your picks while we're doing our picks. That's what I do. I literally make those picks on the show when I'm doing them. And I'm a set and forget person. I just genuinely do not want to think about my picks for the rest of the weekend. If something comes up in the injury report that should change my picks, they don't change. I do not look at them again until Monday. I like to be pleasantly surprised by what I've done. Has that impacted some of the picks that I make? Sure. Because Jeffrey is like the king of waking up on Sunday morning, pouring through the news and changing his picks if oh no, this guy looks like he's going to be injured. Nah, I don't change any of mine. It is what it is.
I happened to make my picks, during the break because I didn't want to risk forgetting about it. And this week is really great because there's just a complete freebie of a win in your Washington Commanders. So I'm totally willing to just throw that out there right now. Like, that's a freebie.
Yeah, the Commanders, Panthers. What could go wrong for the Panthers? Oh, everything.
But then there's this complete opposite end of the spectrum where, I mean, to me, this isn't. This sucks because it is a clash of two of the worst teams in the NFL, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, God, I don't know. Jags and Patriots from London. I backed the Jags last week. I got burned for it. They looked horrible. This should be a spot where you'd think they'd have the upper hand, but this is not a good Jacksonville Jaguars team right now. And I promised myself after watching that really awful performance from the Jags that I wasn't going to pick them, but I'm having a hard time backing the Patriots here. I don't know. I'm completely torn.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots offense is disastrous, but it's funny because I went to a party on Saturday night and I was very hungover, so I slept in Sunday morning, and I wake up to a text from Dylan that just reads, "The Jags are dead to me." Yeah. and I felt the same. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm like, I just think that I'm just gonna fade you until you finally figure out how to win a game that actually looks like you meant to win on purpose, and not just that the other team just kind of messed around until things fell apart for them. So that is.
Thank you for reminding me about that text. I just changed my pick.
The Jags are dead to me.
Yeah.
Dead. Well, I can't blame you. Cannot blame you. Okay, so let's get back to the text line here because Sir Drives a Lot has a criticism of my childlessness, which is fair. He says Keon has never had toddlers. They absolutely move that fast. Sir Drives a Lot, Kyler Murray's run topped out at 22 miles an hour. If your toddler can do that, you need to get them in a football uniform tomorrow. If your toddler can move that fast, Kyler was running away from NFL defenders. If your toddler can move that fast, Sir Drives a Lot, your kid should be playing every sport. And honestly, I highly recommend just doing the basketball thing. You get the guaranteed contracts.
Speed at that age, like it gives you such an edge.
Teach that kid to just have a solid mid-range jumper. I'm telling you, he's going to terrorize every basketball game he's involved in from now until the time he's in high school. What are you waiting for? Because I don't know any toddlers that run 22 miles an hour.
That just sounds like a ton of anxiety.
That sounds like a nightmare. I already don't want kids. I will never have children, but my God, if you told me you could have a child that would run 22 miles an hour, I would definitely. That makes my choice to not have kids double.
Well, that's what happens. Like when your kid becomes mobile, then you have to start worrying about like, is my kid running out like into the street right now?
Well, how could you stop him? How could you catch him? you wouldn't have any idea. Let's see here. We've got Big George on the text line saying I'm 140th. Fantastic. Beat the Book is 105th overall. Yeah, we got Dylan, and we found where he was in the pecking order of things. 140th. Again, like that's probably not as bad as it looks, at least right now, because you're probably tied with like 60 people. Bullseye says, we all know Jeffrey changes his picks after the games happen. He's a chronic cheater. You can admit it, Keon. First off, if Jeffrey were cheating, the hell do you think he'd tell me for? Why would he tell me that he was changing his picks, but wouldn't allow me to change my picks? If he were cheating, and I don't know this, he wouldn't tell me. But also, this new website we use, Pool Host, if you change the picks, even as an admin, it'll flag you. Your picks will all be in this weird yellow. It's like having an asterisk next to your name.
And then it just inserts like shame like next to your name whenever you do it too.
Well, no, it's actually meant for people who just forgot to put their picks in. And if you trust that person, then you can go back in and, change the picks. But it will tell everyone that happened. Yeah, I mean, it'll tell everyone that happened. It's not just like this magic thing. Anyway, the Moist One says the Patriots have the upper hand with Robert Kraft, and they have been known to. Yeah, they have. Thanks, Moist One. We really appreciate it. So, we are coming up to the last segment of the show. We've got On This Date in Big George's sports history. And I want to get to this CBS Sports list, Dylan, because I think it's a very interesting thing. And again, we've got your basketball knowledge on the show. So we'll go ahead and do this. Karl Anthony Towns is at the top of a list of people. NBA players, NBA stars, 5 of them ranked under the most pressure this season. Going to go through the list, see what you think right here on the Daily Blender on 1580 The Fanatic.
You may know me as Ruben Gallego, but I've had a lot of titles over the years. First, son, or mijo, by my single immigrant mom who worked so hard to make ends meet, and brother by my 3 incredible sisters. I've been called janitor, line cook, construction worker, doing any job I could to help out since we didn't have much. I earned the title graduate from Harvard University. I was called infantryman in the Marines when my company took some of the heaviest losses in Iraq. I'm called congressman, proudly representing Arizona the past 10 years. But my favorite title of all is dad to my 2 beautiful kids, whose future I'm fighting for every day. That's why today, my title is candidate for Senate. I'm fighting to lower costs and secure our border. I'm Ruben Gallego, candidate for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message because for me, it's never been about titles. It's about standing up for hardworking Arizonans like you.
Paid for by Gallego for Arizona.
Did you know that Wendy's has any size soft drinks for just $1? Yeah, any size, anytime. Like $1 Coke, $1 Sprite, or even $1 strawberry Fanta. Okay, could we maybe switch up the sound effect? Please? I'm losing it. Wow, no, not that. Any size soft drink for just $1? Gotta be Wendy's.
Limited time only. Price of participation may vary. A la carte only. Not valid in a combo. Exclusions apply.
In most countries of the world, Forte means door. United Forte Custom Doors, located in the Scottsdale Airport Design District, is now open with over 40,000 European doors, all in stock, ready for delivery, and at wholesale prices. Designers, contractors, builders, and yes, you. Come see our showroom on Greenway Hayden Loop. That's United Forte, Porte. Stop by to see and feel the quality at United Forte Custom Doors. Find us at uporte.com. That's uporte.com.
It's fall football season, and Kasai Japanese Steakhouse is doubling down. Now with 2 Valley locations. When it comes to Asian cuisine, no one does it better and more authentic than Kasai, where talented Teppan chefs create the food, the fire, and the fun of teppanyaki. Kasai Japanese Steakhouse isn't just dinner, it's dinnertainment. A memorable dining experience where a delicious 7-course meal is prepared right at your table with flair. It's a perfect choice for celebrations, date nights, or a night on the town. Choose from over 30 different items and combinations of teppanyaki, Asian fusion, and innovative sushi. Happy hour is always on fire and offered daily with specials on their Asian-inspired comfort food like Korean steak tacos, Mongolian barbecue ribs, and signature Wagyu beef sliders. Always a memorable dinner, or catch the game and a bite at the bar at Kasai. Now the 2 locations, Scottsdale Road in Thunderbird, and in Peoria at the 101 in Northern. Go to KasaiTeppan.com. That's Kasai Teppan.com, or search Kasai on your mobile phone.
Never again will you have to say, I missed that segment. I'm such a dinkus.
He's so lame.
Never miss an important segment, favorite host, or show again. Check out our podcast and listen whenever and wherever you want.
It's the reason Al Gore invented the internet.
Follow us on Facebook or Twitter, or at 1580thefanatic.com.
And we're back, and we're about to wrap this bad boy up. Thanks for joining us today on the Daily Blender on 1580 The Fanatic. Bullseye on the text line say, weird hearing Jeffrey's voice on the Kasai commercials. It's like hearing James Earl Jones's voice on the CNN commercials. Voices from beyond the grave. Bullseye, Jeffrey O'Brien is alive. He's on vacation. He is on vacation. He will be back. I know. The Daily Blender does not sound the same without him, but he will be back. Deep breaths. So let's get to let's see, we got enough time. Yeah, let's see if we can get to this list here with the NBA stars under the most pressure this season, because there are a bunch of players in different locations. I think that's probably most of the list, is guys popping up in places where they're not particularly established. So now we're trying to figure out what are they going to do with their new teams? What are they going to do? How are they going to fit in on the new roster? What are the expectations that we should have of them? And number one on this list, and I think it's the most obvious name on the list, which is why I didn't even bother doing it in like countdown form, is Karl-Anthony Towns. He was with the Timberwolves last season. Obviously, has been with the Timberwolves his entire life in the NBA so far. And now he is a New York Knick, which brings with it already its own series of expectations. Knicks fans, I think, can be the nice way of saying this is a little intense. They expect a lot from their teams in general, but this team in particular does look like they went all in on trying to build the best version of the New York Knicks possible. And he's had some playoff games where he just has not looked good, where he has not performed. And I'm just telling you right now that if he has one of those in New York, they might run him out of town on a rail.
That fan base, can be unforgiving. I definitely agree with that. The thing with Cat is, at least from like a salary contract standpoint, I mean, he's locked in for the next 3 years. I mean, the next 2 years are guaranteed. Then the third year is a player option. And these are all going to be years where he's making like over 50 million per season. So is there a lot of pressure for New York to, absolutely figure this thing out in year one and like go the distance? Like there's some, but I don't think it's the end of the world if the Knicks, still have a very good regular season, still have a presence in the postseason, but perhaps they still can't get past the Celtics, or maybe it's another team that ends up stopping them. I don't think the finger pointing at that point would necessarily come down to Cat, because I know me personally, and I really enjoyed the, version of the Nova Knicks that we got this past offseason. And then they made the move for Mikal Bridges. And then we got completely robbed out of seeing like the full Nova Knicks, squad with Julius Randle. And, that got shaken up, and now it's Cat. And does that make them better than what that other, potential roster could have been? I mean, we'll never know.
Is there some pressure in terms of, and I know he's not going to go out on the court and think about this every night, but is there going to be some pressure if Randle is doing better in Minnesota than he is in New York? Like, like you break up with your girlfriend, and then, you're like, yeah, I hope in a few years I'm doing a little bit better than she is.
I feel like, I mean, if that happens, the pressure almost falls more on like the front office, like that's more true. So than Cat, because that's where the fingers are going to be pointing if, Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't look like, a better solution for this roster than the combo of Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle. And those two teams just happen to play each other the other night. Dante DiVincenzo's got some fire right now.
He's a little salty about having been traded. I think he thought that he was a big part of what the Knicks were trying to build, him and Julius Randle. He was saying some things that they were very mean-spirited.
Got into a little squabble with Rick Brunson. That's Jalen Brunson's father, who's assistant coach for the Knicks. And I mean, that's someone that he's pretty intimately familiar with. So
yeah,
that probably wasn't as nasty as
it's probably as it felt, but like the cameras are rolling, the microphones are there, and like you are roasting this man's son right in front of his face for all the world to hear. It's preseason basketball, so all the world didn't hear it, but they could have if they wanted to, and it's on YouTube. You can go find it. There might be a little bit of pressure for Karl-Anthony Towns, but I think you're right. The front office is the one that pulled the trigger on this, and if Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't live up to his potential, I'm sure the New Yorkers are going to have plenty to say about him, but that general manager better get ready to pack his bags, because that could get ugly too. Number 2 on this list is a person that's in the same place as they were before. Atlanta Hawks point guard Trae Young, who has a little bit of a history now with guys that they've tried to pair him with, and it just doesn't work out. And now we're heading into a point where, do the Hawks actually want to build around Trae Young anymore? Is that something that they move off from? I think that there's a little bit more pressure here on the individual player, more so than the front office. If Trae Young is playing well, but for whatever reason, and what seems to be the case with the Hawks a lot, is that the team just doesn't win. His numbers are great, but the team's not winning because of his style of basketball, for whatever reason, they can't seem to build around it. It doesn't mesh with anything. Is Trae Young playing for like his starting role in Atlanta, or playing to avoid being traded somewhere else, where once you get traded, you might not be the guy on that team anymore?
So this one is a little similar to the Karl Anthony Towns one, in that, the front office made some decisions that, before the draft, I think Trae was under a lot more pressure. Then the draft happened, and then some other trades happened after that. And you look at this collection of guys on the Hawks roster right now, and you're just kind of scratching your head. It's just like what is the plan? Like, how did you guys think you were going to get better? You had a trade chip in DeJounte Murray. They clearly, the Murray and Trae Young pairing wasn't working out. Someone had to go. You stuck with Trae, is what it is. But then you bring in Zachary Reese-Shea, could have a promising NBA career.
Mm-hmm.
Probably doesn't have the highest expectations necessarily.
And Trae Young was saying it in the offseason. I wish he didn't say it on a damn podcast, but basically Trae was saying, I don't expect a lot from him early, and perhaps as a rookie, like, he's not going to help us. And I can't really argue with him on that point because of what Reese-Shea's game is right now. It's very limited. There's a high athletic ceiling. There's a high basketball IQ ceiling, but he has to actually learn the NBA game and learn playing at this level. So how much can he help the team? I don't mind him saying that. I wish he just didn't say that into a microphone for everybody to hear.
So, if you look at the Hawks roster right now, this is like the equivalent of a team that just kind of has like 1 foot sort of barely in the door, and then like 75% of them is kind of like out the door, where it seems like there is a notion of just full on rebuild. Trae is more than likely, he's going to be with the team at first. They're going to try and play his stock up, and then they're going to look to move on from him.
Yeah.
So, and for him, that's another guy where his contract situation, it's not like he's in a contract year. He's got guaranteed money coming to him. If he doesn't do that well, he's going to get traded. If he does really well, he's probably still going to get traded. So,
but I think how you play might determine where you go. Like, if you play well, a contender might take you. Whereas if you just show up and play, there's some other team that's like, yeah, let's just kick the tires on Trae Young and see what's there. If he's under contract, now we've got a young guy who we know can perform in the playoffs. We know has had points where he's played at a very high level. Yeah, we'll take a chance on that. The difference between heaven and hell, the difference between, some bubble team that might be the 10th team in the Eastern Conference wants you versus, a team that might be in dire need of a point guard but can contend for a championship. That could be the difference there.
Well, and for Trae Young in this case, I think in years past, he's proven that, there is interest from, teams that are in the trade market like year after year.
Yeah.
If he doesn't come out the gate that well, and he's not playing well and fitting in with this current structure of the Hawks team, I think a lot of teams would look at that and just go, well, the Hawks made some like real kind of boneheaded moves, and, their current roster isn't really built to showcase Trae and showcase what he can do, unless he just, really wants to take it on himself to be a really high volume scorer and probably decrease the assists a bit. And maybe that's the way that we end up seeing him play.
He does seem to also be willing to do that. Before we move on, a couple of people actually said Rick Brunson's House of Comedy. That's what the Moist one said. And Bullseye says, doesn't Rick Brunson have a House of Comedy in Phoenix? No, that's Rick Bronson. I've been to Rick Bronson's House of Comedy. It was a very good time. But no, that's Rick Bronson, not Rick Brunson. Bath Lipper says if Doc doesn't win this year, his career is over, which we could do a whole other segment. And unfortunately, we do not have the time. We could do a whole other segment on coaches that have pressure on them because Doc is certainly one of them. Megatron says Young to the Lakers before the deadline. All right, we'll see if we have any time to get through the rest of this list really quick. But let me read the on this date in Big Georgia sports history from a certain 7-foot-tall lawyer that I may or may not have yelled at earlier in the show, but it's all good. I didn't mean anything personal by it. Here's on this date in Big Georgia sports history. Back in the year 2003, Steve Bartman, the Chicago Cubs fan who deflected a foul ball in Game 6 of the NLCS, released a statement explaining his actions. During a tearful apology, the 26-year-old human resources company worker asked Chicago fans to redirect their negative energy into positive support for the team during Game 7 of the championship series. Later that day, a game the Chicago Cubs would lose to the Florida Marlins, which is why I do not blame Steve Bartman for that, because you had a whole ass other Game 7 to win and didn't bother to listen. You could win that game, but you're not going to blame a single fan for blowing a whole baseball game. And by the way, Bartman, when did the Bartman incident happen? It didn't happen in like the 9th. There was still baseball left. I don't remember exactly what inning that was, but there was still baseball left to be played. And the Cubs players threw
Steve in the 8th inning.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The game was not over. And then there was a whole other game after that. The way the Cubs tell the story is Steve Bartman single-handedly stopped them from advancing to a World Series. And that is not true. Granted, he shouldn't have done it, sure, but you played a Game 7 and you lost. That's why you didn't go to a World Series, not because of Steve Bartman. Big George says, thanks, Keon, for reading on this date in Big Georgia sports history. I appreciate it. And no hard feelings, Keon. I love your passion, and my hot takes are pretty bad sometimes. So, well, look, we all have bad hot takes. I've had more than my fair share.
Well, and I mean, it took them an extra 13 years, but Cubs did.
They did eventually get there.
They sent him a championship ring too.
Yeah, there was somebody who was like, I don't know, like 11 that couldn't legally drink when that happened. That could by the time the Cubs won the title. There's a silver lining there. I don't know. I'm just trying to be positive. We made it through the show. That's what happened today. That's what counts. I saw the Moist one texted and said, that's a good way to think about it, Keon. Jeffrey O'Brien lives on in each and every one of us. No, he doesn't. Jeffrey O'Brien lives on vacation, and he will come back and continue to live on this show. But to everybody that texted in today, thanks for joining us. Thanks for making this really fun and for having the arguments and having the yelling matches and the, commiserating about your team and all the sports emotions. Really enjoyed it. This is the Daily Blender on 1580 The Fanatic, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
The Fanatic is your home for